As America crossed the threshold into the 21st century, it was a nation at a crossroads. The world watched as the country grappled with technological revolutions, economic upheaval, and a redefined global presence. Indeed, the stakes had never been higher. And while the democratic process continued to march on, it became clear that leadership was no longer merely about policy, but about power, influence, and the ability to navigate a country steeped in division and transformation. Therefore, a few select families, with their fingers ever on the pulse of political maneuvering, saw their opportunity. And they didn't just inherit the legacy of governance, they seized it. Today, we explore those dynasties that have defined and continue to dominate the political scene of a nation constantly on the brink of change, and how these families solidified their hold on modern America. In the intricate web of American political history, the phenomenon of presidential families is a perennial topic of both intrigue and, at times, controversy. Placed beside dynastic names like Roosevelt, Kennedy, and Adams, the Bush family carves its unique niche, perhaps more contentious than its predecessors. Indeed, unlike the direct lineage of power seen in other 20th century dynasties, where the Roosevelts and Kennedys, being among America's richest families at the time, played a pivotal role, the Bushes charted a different course. Their ascent from old money to the pinnacle of American politics wasn't a straightforward tale of inheritance or predestined power. Instead, it was a saga marked by astute political maneuvering and an uncanny knack for being at the right place at the right time. In today's episode, we detail how the story of the Bush family is not just about reaching the zenith of political influence, it encapsulates the dual American ethos of entrepreneurship and self-appointed public duty. Their journey, mired in debate and discussion, offers a fascinating insight into the dynamics of power and privilege in the United States. So join us for the ride as we describe how the Bush family went from old money to presidents. Emerging from Europe in the 1600s, the Bush family name weaves through the fabric of history, marking not only a journey of political prominence, but also a richly layered ancestral heritage. This epic tale, steeped in tradition and crossing oceans, echoes the transformative journey of a family that would come to leave an unforgettable mark on American leadership and culture. Now, the Bush family's European lineage primarily encompasses English and German descent. Samuel Bush, born in 1647, marked the beginning of the family's American saga. And extensive research by British genealogist Roger Power has even linked the Bushes to the British royal family. Notably, George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States, is a 13th cousin twice removed of our late Queen Elizabeth II. And this royal connection extends to various historical figures, including King Henry VII, Charles II's mistress, Barbara Villiers, and Mary, the younger sister of Henry VIII. But the Bush family's American journey gained momentum in the mid-19th century. Specifically, among the first Bush ancestors in the USA was George Washington Bush, a mixed-race pioneer and one of the earliest permanent settlers in the Washington Territory. In 1845, he played a crucial role in the early development of what is now Washington State, and that particular George Bush's marriage to Isabella James, of German descent, further diversified the family's heritage. Together they had 9 sons, 6 of whom reached adulthood, and settled at Fort Vancouver, Washington. Then, George Bush's entrepreneurial spirit was evident as he built the region's first grist mill and sawmill, establishing a flourishing farm known as Bush Prairie. And by the late 1800s, the Bush family had begun to amass considerable wealth. Next, Samuel Prescott Bush, a minister's son, was instrumental in establishing the family's fortune. He rose from an apprenticeship to become the president of Buckeye Steel Castings Company, the third largest steel coupler producer in the US at the turn of the century. His tenure at Buckeye Steel Castings, once controlled by Frank Rockefeller, brother of John D. Rockefeller, marked a significant step in the family's ascent to prominence. And Samuel Prescott Bush's influence extended beyond his industrial endeavors. He co-founded the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, presided over the Ohio Manufacturing Association, and served on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. Appointed to Herbert Hoover's President's Committee for Unemployment Relief, he forged an even stronger relationship with the Rockefeller family, further cementing the Bush family's status in American history. Therefore, this legacy of wealth accumulation through investment banking and wartime business ventures has been a hallmark of the Bush family. Their business interests have spanned from Halliburton to Merrill Lynch, and they have famously even ventured into Major League sports team ownership. So we've covered their initial immigration to the United States and the seeds of their legendary wealth. However, now it's time to get into the good stuff. How exactly did this admittedly shrewd set of entrepreneurs go from a simple set of moneymakers to a political dynasty that could rival names like Roosevelt, Adams, and Kennedy in importance? To answer that, we must take a journey to the flat, temperate lands of the great state of Ohio in the late 19th century. And there we'll meet a child named Prescott. Prescott Sheldon Bush, born on the 15th of May, 1895 in Columbus, Ohio, emerged from an already formidable brood in the chronicles of American soft power. His parents, Samuel Prescott Bush and Flora Sheldon Bush, provided him with a nurturing environment that fostered an appreciation for education and sports. Indeed, Prescott was one of 5 children, showcasing his athletic prowess at St. George's School in Rhode Island and later at Yale University, where he excelled in baseball and golf, standing an impressive 6 feet 4 inches tall. Then, the outbreak of World War I in 1917 marked a pivotal moment in Prescott Bush's life. As a student at Yale, he embraced his patriotic duty by accepting an officer's commission, serving as a field artillery captain in the Connecticut National Guard. His military experience was diverse, including intelligence training in Verdun and a stint with a team of French officers. The Meuse-Argonne offensive saw him alternating between intelligence and artillery roles, experiences that profoundly shaped his sense of duty and commitment to his country. Post-war life saw Prescott Bush returning to a civilian existence, gradually immersing himself in local politics. At the time, he and his wife began raising what would become a family of 5 children: Prescott Jr., George H.W., more on him later, Jonathan William, or Bucky, and Nancy. And Father Prescott's military service ingrained a deep sense of honor and duty, qualities that later influenced his political ambitions. Furthermore, Prescott Bush's post-military career was marked by a series of strategic moves in the business world. Starting in 1919 with the Simmons Hardware Company in St. Louis, Missouri, he then transitioned to Columbus, Ohio, working for the Hupp Products Company. His journey led him to Massachusetts, where he became the president of sales for Stedman Products. In 1927, a significant career shift occurred when he joined W.A. Harriman and Company, a bank later merged with Brown Brothers. Here, Bush honed his investment management and advisory skills, attracting high-profile clients, including the Harrimans themselves. Controversy, however, was not far from Prescott Bush's storied career. In July 2007, Harper's Magazine published an article by attorney Scott Horton, which highlighted Prescott Bush's alleged involvement in the 1934 business plot. This plan aimed to leverage retired Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler in a scheme to overthrow President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The plot, however, did not materialize, and Prescott Bush's business dealings extended to his role as a founder and director of the Union Banking Corporation, or the UBC, an investment bank that was a clearinghouse for assets and enterprises held by Fritz Thyssen, a German steel magnate and early Nazi supporter. In 1942, during World War II, the US government seized the bank under the Trading with the Enemy Act, amidst suspicions of holding gold for Nazi leaders. Although these allegations were disproved, Bush's connection with Thyssen and his role in UBC, as reported by some sources, remained a controversial aspect of his legacy. Then, in the 1950s, Prescott Bush, by then already a figure of considerable influence, pivoted towards the political sphere. Aligning himself with the Republican Party, his initial foray into politics faced a setback in 1950, but he secured a seat in the Senate 2 years later. As a senator, Bush was a vocal advocate of President Dwight D. Eisenhower's policies, and he played a notable role in the Interstate Highway Program, where he championed the principle of apportionment based on relative need, a policy adopted in 1956. And beyond infrastructure, Bush was actively engaged in social issues. He contributed to the American Birth Control League as early as 1942 and was instrumental in the first nationwide campaign of Planned Parenthood in 1947. And his commitment to education and racial equality was evident in his role as the chairman of the Connecticut branch of the United Negro College Fund in 1951. However, even as he was gaining immense power in the US Senate, Prescott Bush could perhaps not imagine what the next generation of men bearing his name would do to further the power and prestige of a lineage that had by then already been synonymous with seizing the reins of influence and notoriety. Future President, Vice President, and CIA Director George Herbert Walker Bush, in his adolescent years, attended Phillips Academy, Andover, a prestigious boarding school in Massachusetts. There, he distinguished himself as a compassionate and accomplished student, often standing up for younger students in an environment where bullying was prevalent. His leadership qualities shone through as he became the senior class president and captained both the baseball and soccer teams, while also engaging in various clubs. And his time at Andover culminated on his 18th birthday in 1942, the same day he enlisted in the United States Navy, marking the start of a significant chapter in his life. Then, during World War II, from 1942 to 1945, Bush served as a naval aviator. The attack on Pearl Harbor spurred his decision to join the Navy and train as an aviator. After pre-flight training at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, he earned his commission as an ensign and embarked on 58 combat missions. His military tenure was notable, including a harrowing incident where he had to bail out of his burning plane near the Bonin Islands. And for his valor, he received the Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 Air Medals, and the Presidential Unit Citation, awarded to the USS San Jacinto crew. Next, George H.W. Bush's personal life took a significant turn in 1945 when he married Barbara Pierce. They first met during the Christmas holidays in 1941 at a country club dance in Greenwich. And their engagement, which occurred before George departed for World War II, was sealed with a sapphire ring from his aunt. After surviving his plane being shot down in 1944, George returned to the US on Christmas Eve and married Barbara just 2 weeks later at the First Presbyterian Church in Rye, New York. Their marriage spanned 73 years and saw the birth of 6 children: George Walker, better known as George W., or even just W., Robin, John Ellis, or Jeb, Neil, Marvin, and Dorothy, or Doro. The Bushes' union, enduring through various life challenges, became the longest of any presidential couple in history. Now, George H.W. Bush's political journey began in the 1960s and 1970s. His first notable political role was as chairman of Texas's Harris County Republican Party in 1963. He then served 2 terms as a U.S. representative from Texas's 7th District, starting in 1966. Despite setbacks in Senate races, his political ascent continued with appointments to significant roles, including U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. However, his tenure as the Director of Central Intelligence for the CIA in 1976 was mired in controversy. His appointment by the Ford administration during a period of intense scrutiny of the CIA raised concerns among critics like Senator Frank Church about Bush's potential to protect presidential interests. Nevertheless, Bush's time as director was marked by his efforts to boost morale and refocus the agency, earning him recognition as a capable leader. Then, George H.W. Bush's selection as Ronald Reagan's vice president was a strategic decision, balancing Reagan's ticket with a moderate figure like Bush. Reagan, perceived as lacking in foreign affairs expertise, saw value in Bush's extensive experience in the field. However, Bush's selection came at the last moment, influenced by a mix of chance and behind-the-scenes maneuvering. And as vice president, Bush played a key role in domestic areas such as federal deregulation and anti-drug programs, and also represented the US in numerous foreign countries. Despite initial struggles to establish a productive working relationship with President Reagan, Bush eventually won his loyalty, leading to their landslide re-election in 1984. Next, Bush's presidential campaign was multifaceted. With a background in domestic politics and foreign affairs, plus 8 years as vice president, he was well prepared. His campaign, launched in October 1987, focused on continuing Reagan's legacy, with stances against flag burning and abortion and support for free trade and community volunteerism. Despite early setbacks like losing the Iowa caucus and battling an image of being wimpy, Bush rebounded strongly, winning the New Hampshire primary and dominating the Super Tuesday races. The campaign against Democratic nominee Michael Dukakis was aggressive, with the controversial Willie Horton ad and the revolving door spot, painting Dukakis as extremely liberal and soft on crime. These strategies were pivotal in shaping public perception and contributed significantly to Bush's victory. Then, as the 41st President of the United States, Bush's tenure was marked by significant domestic and international events and controversies. He signed the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and the Clean Air Act amendments, and his reliance on veto power and a challenging relationship with a Democrat-controlled Congress, particularly with Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, were notable aspects of his presidency. Internationally, Bush's presidency also coincided with the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Berlin Wall. He supported Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev and led the US in the First Gulf War. Although his decision to halt the invasion of Iraq and leave Saddam Hussein in power was contentious. Despite high approval ratings, particularly post-Gulf War, Bush's perceived inattention to domestic issues and breaking the No New Taxes pledge contributed to his defeat in the 1992 presidential election. That year began with his approval rating falling below majority for the first time, further declining amid the presidential primaries. However, little did Father H.W. know that the story of a two-term Bush presidency was well on its way. It just wouldn't be with Daddy at the helm. George W. Bush was born on the 6th of July, 1946, in New Haven, Connecticut, and his early years were overshadowed by the loss of his sister, Robin, to leukemia, a tragedy that deeply affected him and strengthened his bond with his mother. At Yale University, Bush pursued a history degree, graduating in 1968 amidst a backdrop of controversy. His acceptance into the Texas Air National Guard, especially with a minimal score on a pilot aptitude test and during the height of the Vietnam War, raised eyebrows, with many speculating that his father's political influence as a congressman played a role in this decision. And Bush's early adulthood was famously marked by excessive drinking, which he later acknowledged as problematic, though he never identified as an alcoholic. Reportedly, his drinking habits bordered on binge drinking, occasionally leading to offensive behavior. However, a pivotal change occurred in the 1970s, culminating in his decision to embrace sobriety following a particularly wild celebration of his 40th birthday in 1986. And in 1977, George W. Bush's life took a positive turn with his marriage to Laura Welch, a former teacher and librarian. Shortly thereafter, the couple welcomed twin daughters, Jenna and Barbara, in 1981. Notably, Laura Bush's influence extended to her husband's political career. As First Lady of Texas and then the United States, she championed education, healthcare, and human rights, advocating for the well-intentioned, if controversial, No Child Left Behind Act and the Reading First program. She also founded the National Book Festival and worked with UNESCO on global literacy programs. Now, George W. Bush's political journey began in earnest in 1994 when he ran for governor of Texas against Ann Richards. Despite the intense campaign and high favorability ratings for both candidates, Bush won with 53% of the vote. As governor, he was known for his commitment to bipartisanship and compassionate conservatism, focusing on principles like limited government and personal responsibility. His tenure saw significant achievements, including increased education spending and reforms that linked teacher salaries and promotions to student performance on standardized tests. However, his governorship wasn't without controversy. Bush faced scrutiny for Texas's high use of capital punishment and for education reforms that heavily relied on testing and school report cards. His tort reform measures also sparked debate. Bush's effective governance in Texas led to his re-election in 1998, making him the first governor in Texas history to be elected to consecutive four-year terms. His success in Texas subsequently brought him national attention from the Republican Party, culminating in his nomination as their presidential candidate in 2000. Now, the decision for George W. Bush to run for the presidency in 2000 was deeply rooted in family history and his personal political journey. As the eldest son of former President George H.W. Bush, he had been actively involved in his father's political campaigns, including the 1992 re-election bid. However, the loss of his father in the 1992 election set the stage for George W. Bush to consider his own political aspirations, a decision that solidified during his second inauguration as Texas governor. The 2000 presidential campaign, pitting Texas Governor Bush against Vice President Al Gore, quickly became one of the most disputed in U.S. history. With Gore winning the popular vote, but the electoral outcome hinging on Florida's 25 votes, the nation watched as a slender Bush lead triggered a recount. The Supreme Court's 5-4 decision to halt the recount, citing time constraints to meet the electoral certification deadline, effectively handed the presidency to Bush. This outcome sparked significant controversy, casting doubts on Bush's legitimacy and tarnishing the Supreme Court's reputation. And then, George W. Bush's presidency was a period marked by major events and deep divisions. The 9/11 terrorist attacks, which resulted in nearly 3,000 American deaths, transformed Bush into a wartime president, with his initial response garnering overwhelming public approval. However, his administration's subsequent actions, particularly the invasion of Iraq, attracted intense scrutiny. The Iraq War, justified by the perceived threat from Saddam Hussein, initially had notable support, but later became a point of deep division. The war's human and financial costs, including the loss of over 200,000 Iraqi lives and the displacement of millions, led to widespread criticism. Even Bush himself later acknowledged his administration's errors in his 2010 memoir, Decision Points. And domestically, Bush's policies were equally contentious. His 2001 and 2003 tax cuts significantly reduced federal revenue, while his vision of an ownership society aimed to promote personal responsibility in various aspects of American life. Bush's speaking style, often perceived as folksy or downright pedantic, and the tight structure of his administration, with influential figures like Vice President Dick Cheney and Chief of Staff Andy Card, were distinctive features of his presidency. However, regardless of the sometimes infamous, sometimes glorious nature of George W. Bush's time as president, he without a doubt catapulted the family name to unseen heights. Yet, there were many, many more Bushes at work behind the scenes, bolstering the social power and political muscle of the family at the same time W. was in office. With his father and elder brother both serving as U.S. presidents, John Ellis Jeb Bush, born in 1953, had to carve out his own path. After graduating from the University of Texas, he ventured into banking and later real estate development in Florida, and his political ascent culminated in his election as Florida's governor in 1999. Notably, Jeb Bush was a proponent of immigration reform and even sought the Republican presidential nomination in 2016. And though his presidential bid was unsuccessful, Jeb's political endeavors have significantly contributed to the Bush family's legacy, while William Hall Billy Bush, born in 1971, diverged from the family's political trajectory by choosing a career in entertainment. Known for his work on syndicated entertainment news shows, Billy has maintained an apolitical stance, focusing on his individual career in the entertainment industry. This career choice has diversified the Bush family's public image, extending their influence beyond the realm of politics. But both Jeb and Billy have faced their own sets of challenges and controversies. Billy Bush faced a personal scandal a bit later involving Donald Trump and the infamous locker room talk conversation, which drew significant media attention. And Jeb Bush's 2016 presidential campaign struggled to gain traction, leading to his withdrawal after the South Carolina Republican primary. Other members of the Bush family, active in various sectors, include Dorothy Bush Koch and Neil Bush. Dorothy, known as Doro, is an author and philanthropist, contributing to health and wellness initiatives and literacy programs, and Neil Bush is a businessman and chairs several foundations, including those focused on literacy and US-China relations. Furthermore, in the 2010s, the overall Bush family, particularly George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, experienced notable shifts in public perception. George H.W. Bush, the 41st US president, increasingly came to be regarded as an elder statesman. His foreign policy, in retrospect, garnered appreciation as an exemplar of American leadership, especially when contrasted with the challenges faced by his son and successors. Despite not securing a second presidential term, George H.W. Bush's reputation saw a resurgence, with recognition of his pragmatic and results-driven leadership approach. George W. Bush encountered a more intricate public image during this time. His presidency, marked by significant controversy, often drew criticism for his economic policies, communication skills, foreign policy, and perceived intelligence. However, post-presidency, his public favorability saw an upswing. By 2013, nearly half of Americans viewed him positively, perhaps reflecting his tenure as being less divisive than more recent administrations, marking a considerable improvement from the low approval ratings he experienced upon leaving office in 2009. In his life after the presidency, George W. Bush embraced painting of all things, finding it both relaxing and inspiring. He published Portraits of Courage, a book featuring his paintings that pay tribute to military veterans, showcasing a more personal and calming aspect of the former president. But then, the passing of George H.W. Bush on the 30th of November 2018 profoundly affected the Bush family and their public standing. George H.W. Bush's death also significantly impacted the family's public legacy. He was celebrated for his commitment to his country and his 1,000 Points of Light initiative, inspiring generations of Americans and earning praise from global leaders. And his life and service have left a unique impact on the Bush family and on American public life. Thus, as the 2020s unfold, the Bush family's legacy continues to evolve. Though their political clout appears to be diminishing, their influence has stretched across American politics, media, sports, entertainment, and business for generations. Therefore, indeed, the Bush family's impact on American society and politics remains significant, and their legacy is likely to be a subject of ongoing discussion and analysis in the future. In the grand theater of American political history, few families evoke as much adulation and aggravation as the Clintons. Indeed, former President Bill Clinton, with his magnetic charm, steered the nation through a historic economic renaissance, while former Senator and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, a formidable force in her own right, shattered glass ceiling after glass ceiling. Yet, beneath this gleaming surface, the Clinton family saga is inextricably tied to deep and unending controversy. From whispers of corruption to associating with some of the most unscrupulous characters in recent memory, few last names in American history have been so simultaneously revered and reviled as that of a Clinton. In today's episode, we trace their journey from the backwoods of Middle America to the White House and beyond, highlighting the dual facets of their story, profound achievement shadowed by diabolical controversy, as we describe the Clintons, America's most controversially successful political family. The Clinton family, love them or loathe them, has been one of the most powerful lineages in not just the United States, but for the entire world, for more than 30 years at this point. And much of its notoriety began with President Bill Clinton's presidency. Indeed, a rollicking roller coaster of economic highs and scandalous lows. You see, on one hand, his 8-year tenure saw the US economy revel in its longest peacetime expansion ever. Thus, those of us old enough to remember life before cell phones can also remember the 90s economic boom, with over 22 million new jobs popping up like mushrooms after rain, and unemployment and inflation rates plummeting to levels unseen in decades. But the pièce de résistance was Clinton transformed a staggering $290 billion deficit into a $236 billion surplus by 2000. That's right, folks. Billy Blythe Clinton took the Yanks from red ink to a financial green dream, an unthinkable moment in today's spend more to make up for the fact we spent too much climate of today's economics. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton wasn't content to play second fiddle. In 2000, she stepped out of the shadows and into the history books as the first former First Lady to clinch a US Senate seat, and not just any seat, she became New York's first female senator. Beating Republican Rick Lazio in a tightly contested race, she paved the way for her own political saga. And as Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013, Hillary pivoted America towards Asia with more precision than a seasoned yoga instructor. Her diplomatic dance card included signing the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia and securing the US a spot in the East Asia Summit. Furthermore, post-White House, the Clintons didn't just retire to a life of lucrative book deals and speaking gigs. Oh no, they forged a new empire with the Clinton Global Initiative. Founded in 2001, right after they left the White House, the foundation has grown into a global behemoth with over 2,000 employees and initiatives spanning from climate change to childhood obesity. And financially, the foundation is a juggernaut, raising nearly $2 billion since its launch, with a donor list that reads like a who's who of the global elite. Goldman Sachs, Coca-Cola, Norway, Australia, Kuwait, you name it, they've got it. However, this financial prowess hasn't come without its fair share of side-eye. Critics have scrutinized the foundation's fundraising practices, especially during Hillary's stint as Secretary of State and her presidential run, with whispers of potential conflicts of interest echoing through the halls of power. And let's not forget the sordid soap opera that was Bill Clinton's romantic escapades. The Monica Lewinsky affair was the headliner, exploding into public view in 1998. Clinton's initial denial, "I did not have relations with that woman," morphed into a sheepish admission after undeniable evidence surfaced. The scandal led to his impeachment by the House on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, though the Senate ultimately acquitted him. And Monica was just the tip of the iceberg. Bill's past included a purported 12-year affair with Jennifer Flowers, allegations from Paula Jones of harassment, settled out of court for $850,000, and a R-word accusation by Juanita Broaddrick, which he has steadfastly denied. Throw in the Whitewater real estate fiasco and the Travelgate and Filegate controversies, and you've got a veritable scandal stew. Remarkably, Bill Clinton's popularity with his base hasn't faltered, despite these scandals. Dubbed the comeback kid after his 1992 New Hampshire primary surge, his approval ratings hit a jaw-dropping 73% post-impeachment. And by the time he left office, he boasted a 66% approval rating, the highest for any outgoing president since World War II. But Hillary, no stranger to controversy herself, was dogged by the infamous email scandal during her tenure as Secretary of State. The use of a private email server for official business sparked an FBI investigation and became a thorn in her side during the 2016 presidential campaign. Though no charges were brought, the incident tainted her public image, feeding into narratives of secrecy and distrust. Her basket of deplorables comment didn't help, painting her as elitist and out of touch. Yet despite the myriad scandals, the Clintons' influence remains formidable. Their ability to attract support and stay relevant speaks to their political savvy. And whether admired or reviled, the Clintons' legacy is one of reinvention and relentless ambition. However, how did a working-class son of a fractured home and a bookish lady from Illinois come to reign as one of America's most iconic political dynasties? We'll have to go back in time to a little place called Hope, Arkansas. William Jefferson Blythe. The third, forever known to history as Bill Clinton, first drew breath on the 19th of August 1946 in the humble surroundings of Hope, Arkansas, and his roots stretched back through generations characterized by grit and the harshness of personal loss. His great-grandfather, one Henry Patton Foote Blythe, was born in Tipper County, Mississippi in 1851, and the surname Blythe, Bill's birth name, heralded from English meaning cheerful or pleasant, and hinted at a Scottish lineage tied to namesake locales in Berwickshire and Peeblesshire in Scotland. Now this Henry, after taking Frances Ellen Fanny Hines as his bride, welcomed William Jefferson Blythe II, Bill's grandfather, into the world in the mid-1880s. And by 1906, William II had forged his own family, marrying Lou Birchie Ayres. Together, they bore one William Jefferson Blythe Jr., Bill's father, who entered the world on a cold day in February 1918 in Sherman, Texas. But tragedy struck harshly and abruptly when Bill Clinton's father perished in a car crash near Sikeston, Missouri, on the 17th of May 1946, merely 3 months before his son Bill was born. This dark shroud of sorrow draped heavily over the Blythe family, profoundly affecting young Bill's early life. Now Bill's maternal lineage traced back to James Eldridge Cassidy and Edith Valley Grisham, a couple who married in January 1922. They ran a modest grocery store in Hope, a gathering place where their granddaughter, Virginia Dell Cassidy, Bill's mother, often lent a hand. Following the tragic loss of her husband, Bill's mother, Virginia, with child, returned to her parents' embrace, where she soon welcomed young Bill into the world. Then, in 1950, Virginia remarried Roger Clinton Sr., a car salesman, and less than the idyllic stepfather to young Bill. Indeed, stepdad Roger brought tumult and strife into Bill's childhood home, marked by his struggles with alcoholism and a violent temper. However, this marriage also gave Bill a half-brother, Roger Clinton Jr., born in 1956, who would be a constant source of difficulty over the course of Bill Clinton's life, even into the presidency. And although Bill initially used his stepfather's surname informally, it was not until he was 14 that he officially adopted the Clinton name, a nod to familial unity and connection to his brother. Throughout these tough years, Bill found solace and guidance in the arms of his maternal grandparents, Eldridge and Edith Cassidy, and their store became a beacon of the fight for civil rights, extending credit to customers regardless of race, an uncommon practice amidst the era's stark racial divides. And as he grew, Bill Clinton's intellectual and musical prowess began to emerge. He performed well in school, displaying a remarkable aptitude that hinted at the profound impact he would one day have on the world stage. He attended Hot Springs High School, and as a student leader, avid reader, and talented musician, he excelled, playing the tenor saxophone and briefly contemplating a career in music before setting his sights on public service. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Illinois, another young life was unfolding with equal promise. One, Hillary Diane Rodham, born on the 26th of October 1947, had a rich heritage, reflecting the complex tapestry of American immigration. Her ancestry blended English, Welsh, Scottish, French, and Dutch roots, with 7 of her 8 great-grandparents being immigrants to the United States. For example, Hillary's paternal grandfather, Hugh Simpson Rodham Sr., was born in August 1879 in Keogh, County Durham, England, and eventually emigrated to the US as his family sought better fortunes in America. Hugh married Hannah Anna Jones, the daughter of Welsh immigrants, in May 1902 in Binghamton, New York, in a union that crossed social barriers of the time. Additionally, Hugh S. Rodham and Hannah Jones's marriage produced Hillary's father, Hugh Ellsworth Rodham, born on April 2, 1911, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And on her maternal side, Hillary's family history was equally complex. Dorothy Emma Howell, Hillary's mother, was born on the 4th of June 1919 in Chicago, and Dorothy's early years were marked by hardship and abandonment, a story often recounted by Hillary. Dorothy married Hugh Ellsworth Rodham in 1942, and they had 3 children: Hillary, born in 1947, and her brothers, Hugh Jr., born in 1950, and Tony, born in 1954. Strangely, Hillary Clinton's public accounts of her family's immigration history have occasionally been inaccurate. In 2015, she claimed all her grandparents were immigrants, though only Hugh S. Rodham Sr. was foreign-born. In 1965, Hillary graduated, the same year Bill graduated from Hot Springs High School. However, just 2 years earlier, a pivotal moment in Bill's life occurred when he attended the American Legion Boys Nation program in Washington, D.C. in 1963. As a delegate, he visited the White House and met none other than President John F. Kennedy. This brief encounter left a lasting impression, inspiring Bill's lifelong commitment to public service. And President Clinton later recalled this moment as one of his most influential experiences, alongside watching Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. Both Bill and Hillary went on to attend prestigious universities, Bill at Georgetown University and Hillary at Wellesley College, where they would hone their skills, unknowingly preparing for their future roles in running the country. In the next chapter, we'll document the transition from promising students to up-and-coming world leaders that the Clinton duo experienced. In the tumultuous year of 1968, surrounded by a world in flux, a young Bill Clinton walked the hallowed halls of Georgetown University, graduating with a degree in foreign service, and his tenure there was far from ordinary. As class president and intern for the influential Arkansas Senator J. William Fulbright, Clinton sharpened his political instincts and deepened his dedication to public service. Thus, Georgetown wasn't just an academic stop. It was a crucible where his political aspirations were forged. Fresh from Georgetown's ivy-clad portals, Clinton snagged a coveted and prestigious Rhodes Scholarship, propelling him across the Atlantic to Oxford University. Initially, he dove into a bachelor's in philosophy, politics, and economics, but soon pivoted to a bachelor's in politics. And though the spectre of the Vietnam War draft cut short his Oxford sojourn, the experience was transformative, and it expanded his worldview and cemented his political ambitions. While Clinton was carving his path at Oxford, another star was rising. In 1969, Hillary Rodham made waves as she graduated from Wellesley College, and she broke new ground as the first student to deliver a commencement speech, a bold, incisive critique of the political landscape that spotlighted her commitment to social justice. Furthermore, her Wellesley years were a whirlwind of student politics, culminating in her presidency of the College Government Association. Hillary's eloquence and leadership during that commencement speech thrust her into the national spotlight, marking her as a burgeoning political force. Now, by 1970, back in the States, Bill Clinton was enrolled at Yale Law School, where fate and shared passions brought him together with Hillary Rodham. Their relationship, built on a mutual dedication to public service and perhaps conspiratorial controversy, blossomed into a partnership that would become legendary. Bill Clinton graduated in 1973 and returned to Arkansas to teach at the University of Arkansas School of Law, before taking his first political plunge in 1974 by running for the House of Representatives against incumbent Republican John Paul Hammerschmidt. Although he lost, it was a nail-bitingly close race that showcased his potential. And this campaign was a vital apprenticeship, laying the foundation for his future political endeavors. The following year, on the 11th of October 1975, Bill and Hillary tied the knot in a modest ceremony in Fayetteville, Arkansas, intertwining their destinies both personally and professionally. Just 3 years later, a seismic shift in Clinton's career occurred as he was elected governor of Arkansas in the 1978 election at the tender age of 32, one of the youngest in the nation's history. And his campaign, centered on educational reform and economic development, resonated with voters and set the stage for his rise to national prominence. Additionally, in 1978, they partnered with James and Susan McDougal in the Whitewater Development Corporation, a real estate venture that would later spark outrage and investigation. But at the time, it was merely another partnership in their early political development. Now, as governor, Clinton deftly balanced progressive policies with fiscal conservatism, tackling education reform, welfare improvements, and economic development, though not without facing fierce opposition from various interest groups. One of his hallmark initiatives, a highway improvement program funded by increased vehicle registration fees and fuel taxes, met with public disfavor and contributed to his 1980 gubernatorial defeat. However, this setback was but a temporary blip. 1980 also brought personal joy with the birth of Chelsea Victoria Clinton in Little Rock, and as their only child, Chelsea's arrival was a poignant milestone amid political upheaval, humanizing the Clintons and allowing voters to see them as a relatable, modern political family. Then, Clinton's deft political skill shone through as he returned to the governor's office in 1983, serving for another decade and solidifying his political credentials, and the beginning of a long tenure that would serve as a springboard for his national ambitions. Yet, little did the Clinton family know that their return to the governorship was just the beginning of both an unprecedented series of successes and unmatched set of controversies. After a successful, non-consecutive decade as the governor of Arkansas, on the 3rd of October 1991, Bill Clinton, with characteristic charisma, stood on the steps of the old State House in Little Rock to announce his candidacy for the presidency. And despite early controversies, including allegations of marital infidelity and draft dodging, Clinton's ability to connect with voters and his economic message propelled him to the forefront of the Democratic primaries. Emerging as the frontrunner, Clinton's campaign against President George H.W. Bush and independent Ross Perot was deftly managed. His centrist message, encapsulated in the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid," struck a chord with recession-weary voters. And the dynamic Clinton-Gore ticket presented a youthful contrast to the incumbent administration, culminating in a decisive victory on the 3rd of November 1992. Then, on the 20th of January 1993, amidst an atmosphere brimming with promise, William Jefferson Clinton was inaugurated as the 42nd President of the United States, ushering in a new era of Democratic leadership after 12 years of Republican control of the White House. The inauguration ceremony, held on the West Front of the United States Capitol, drew an estimated crowd of 800,000 people, making it one of the largest inaugural gatherings in American history. And his inaugural address called for renewal and unity, echoing the themes of his campaign and signaling a new era. The Clintons' walk down Pennsylvania Avenue symbolized their connection with the public, a hallmark of Clinton's presidency that promised dynamic, youthful leadership. And from the outset of his presidency, Clinton focused on economic reform and healthcare as key priorities. He quickly established a task force on national healthcare reform, chaired by First Lady Hillary Clinton, to develop a comprehensive plan for universal healthcare coverage. This unprecedented role for a presidential spouse underscored the administration's commitment to healthcare reform, but also set the stage for intense scrutiny and opposition. And in September 1993, President Clinton presented his vision for overhauling the nation's healthcare system to a joint session of Congress. However, the Clinton healthcare plan faced significant challenges from its inception. Opposition mounted from conservatives, libertarians, and the health insurance industry, which launched effective advertising campaigns against the proposal, and the complexity of the plan and the closed-door nature of its development also drew criticism. Despite initial public support, the reform effort lost momentum as competing Democratic proposals emerged and bipartisan backing failed to materialize. Meanwhile, as the healthcare reform initiative faltered, the Clinton administration faced another significant challenge with the emergence of the Whitewater scandal in 1994. You see, the controversy centered around the Clintons' aforementioned involvement in a failed real estate venture called the Whitewater Development Corporation in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Questions arose about the nature of the Clintons' investment, their relationship with business partners Jim and Susan McDougal, and potential connections to the failed Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan. The scandal then gained traction when the Resolution Trust Corporation, investigating the collapse of Madison Guaranty, issued criminal referrals mentioning the Clintons. In January 1994, Attorney General Janet Reno appointed Robert B. Fisk as special counsel to investigate the Whitewater matter. And later that year, Kenneth Starr replaced Fisk as independent counsel, broadening the scope of the investigation. The Whitewater investigations cast the first major shadow over the Clinton presidency, leading to numerous hearings, subpoenas, and intense media scrutiny. While the Clintons maintained their innocence, the controversy consumed significant political capital and diverted attention from the administration's policy agenda. The investigations would continue for several years, eventually expanding to include other matters and culminating in the Monica Lewinsky scandal and President Clinton's impeachment in 1998. Furthermore, the unsettling death of Deputy White House counsel Vince Foster on the 20th of July 1993 reverberated through the corridors of power in Washington, igniting a flurry of theories around the Clintons' alleged involvement. You see, Foster, a lifelong confidant and close friend of President Bill Clinton, was found deceased in Fort Marcy Park, but was ruled to have ended his own life. However, this conclusion failed to quell the whispers of foul play and supposed cover-ups among Clinton detractors. And Foster's suspicious passing has remained a potent symbol in the arsenal of anti-Clinton rhetoric for years to follow. Then, in 1994, the Troopergate scandal burst into the public sphere, further marring Clinton's image. Specifically, several Arkansas state troopers alleged that they had arranged extramarital liaisons for then-Governor Clinton, according to reports by the American Spectator and the Los Angeles Times. Describing a governor who wielded his influence to orchestrate secretive rendezvous, these troopers portrayed themselves as enablers of Clinton's indiscretions, acting as lookouts and chauffeurs. Despite Clinton's denials, these revelations intensified the scrutiny of his character and personal integrity, and were only the beginning in a long list of controversies regarding Clinton's loyalty to his marriage. Yet amidst these scandals, significant policy shifts were also underway. In 1996, President Clinton fulfilled on a campaign pledge to transform the U.S. welfare system and implemented landmark legislation that imposed work requirements and set a 5-year federal benefits cap, more commonly known as welfare to work. This overhaul granted states greater autonomy in managing welfare while bolstering child support enforcement and aiming to curb the rates of out-of-wedlock births. The next year, brought another major legislative achievement with the signing of the Balanced Budget Act of 1997. Crafted through a compromise with the Republican-led Congress and Speaker Newt Gingrich, the act sought to eliminate the federal budget deficit by 2002 via spending reductions and increased revenues. And this period culminated in the late 1990s economic boom, resulting in the first federal budget surpluses since 1969, a zenith not seen since the fiscal discipline of the era. Thus, these twin legislative victories, the welfare reform of 1996 and the fiscal retrenchment of 1997, not only marked high points of Clinton's domestic agenda, but also left enduring imprints on America's social and fiscal landscapes, all the while unknowingly serving as preludes to one of the most morally controversial and economically successful second terms in the history of the presidency. After one of the most comfortable re-elections for a second term in recent memory, President Bill Clinton became embroiled in his most notorious controversy ever, and on the 19th of December 1998, he faced impeachment by the House of Representatives. At the time, this was only the second instance of a president being impeached, and Clinton was charged with perjury and obstruction of justice, allegations stemming from his extramarital entanglement with Monica Lewinsky, a White House intern. Ironically, the scandal surfaced during an investigation initially targeting the Clintons' involvement in the Whitewater land deal, but the scope widened dramatically after Linda Tripp disclosed taped conversations of Lewinsky detailing her liaison with the president. But Clinton, having denied the affair under oath during a deposition in Paula Jones's harassment lawsuit, found his assertions contradicted by Lewinsky's eventual grand jury testimony under immunity, acknowledging their affair, and Clinton later conceded to misleading under oath. The ensuing Senate trial, beginning early 1999, concluded on February 12th, with Clinton's acquittal on all charges, as neither reached the two-thirds vote needed for conviction. However, the stain of the Clinton impeachment and his clear moral ambiguity has never left the family's purview when seen through the lens of history. With that said, the American economy continued to boom during President Clinton's second term, and when it concluded in January 2001, his popularity was paradoxically robust, posting some of the highest approval ratings of an outgoing president in history. Post-presidency, Bill founded the Clinton Foundation in 2001, aiming to tackle global issues like climate change and public health. And by 2015, the foundation had mobilized nearly $2 billion, showcasing the Clintons' formidable fundraising capabilities, albeit accompanied by scrutiny over potential conflicts of interest as Hillary's political influence persisted. You see, simultaneously, Hillary Rodham Clinton was carving her path in politics, notably capturing New York's U.S. Senate seat on the 7th of November 2000, thus becoming the first First Lady elected to public office. Therefore, as the Clintons transitioned from their roles in the White House, Hillary, as a newly minted senator, and Bill, as a global philanthropist, they remained pivotal figures in American political life. The dawn of 2001 marked not an end, but a vibrant new chapter for the Clinton legacy, filled with opportunities for contributions to both global philanthropy and domestic politics. Then, after her service in the Senate, Hillary made her first significant attempt to run for the presidency in 2008. And her campaign against Barack Obama was memorably intense and competitive, introducing her strong political aspirations and serving as a harbinger for future electoral runs. Despite her loss in the Democratic primaries, Clinton's political journey was far from over, and in 2009, Clinton accepted the role of United States Secretary of State under President Barack Obama, focusing on mending and strengthening America's international relationships. Her tenure as Secretary of State saw her deeply involved in pivotal events and strategic initiatives, including the Obama administration's Pivot to Asia, aimed at reinforcing ties with Asian countries, and she was notably involved in the strategic planning and execution of the mission that led to the assassination of Osama bin Laden in 2011. However, her tenure was not without controversy, notably the September 11, 2012, attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, which led to the tragic loss of 4 American lives, including U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens. This incident unleashed a torrent of scrutiny over the security measures at the compound and the subsequent response by the Obama administration. Clinton consequently found herself at the heart of the storm, navigating through several congressional probes and an independent review board. Furthermore, this controversy bled into her 2016 presidential campaign, further fueled by another scandal involving her use of a private email server during her tenure as Secretary of State. This issue attracted an FBI investigation and became a central theme of her presidential run, challenging her image and her claim to the presidency, despite her historical nomination as the first woman to top the ticket of a major U.S. political party. Clinton's 2016 campaign was thus marred by the resurfacing of the email controversy, especially with FBI Director James Comey's 11th-hour revelation of reopening the investigation, a move that many believe sharply dented her electoral prospects. Despite these challenges, Hillary's campaign had groundbreaking achievements, and she made history as the first woman to become the presidential nominee of a major U.S. political party, representing a monumental step forward for women in politics. Moreover, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by nearly 2.9 million votes, highlighting widespread voter support across the nation and further legitimizing the eventual vision of a woman in the White House at some point in the near future. However, on the 8th of November, in an outcome that shocked many, Hillary Clinton lost the presidential race to Donald Trump, with Trump's victory in crucial battleground states securing him the presidency via the Electoral College. Therefore, the legacy of Hillary's trajectory from First Lady to arguably legitimizing the prospect of a female president is bittersweet, as it was simultaneously historic and controversial for matters that pertain perhaps to the specific family that lodged the iconic run, as opposed to the prospect of a woman president overall. Furthermore, in the subsequent years, the Clinton family found themselves under renewed scrutiny linked to notorious financier Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this scrutiny was primarily directed at Bill Clinton, as unsealed court documents later revealed President Clinton's frequent travels on Epstein's private jet, known as the Lolita Express, with records indicating at least 26 flights to myriad global destinations from 2001 to 2003. Even more shockingly, some of these trips were undertaken without his Secret Service detail, with one particularly severe claim involving Johanna Sjoberg, an Epstein victim, alleging that Epstein had insinuated Bill Clinton's preference for younger females. Despite these serious associations, Bill Clinton has vehemently denied any knowledge of Epstein's criminal activities and asserted that he severed ties with Epstein following his initial conviction. However, the unfolding Epstein scandal has intricately woven a new layer of complexity into the Clintons' public narrative and political legacy, maintaining their position as subjects of intense media scrutiny and public discourse, despite their assertions of disengagement and innocence. Additionally, there is one well-known member of the family, and consequently the veritable future of the Clintons, that we'll cover in the next chapter. Chelsea Victoria Clinton, the only child of Bill and Hillary, was born on the 27th of February 1980 in Little Rock, Arkansas, during Bill Clinton's first term as governor. As the sole child of two burgeoning political figures, Chelsea was therefore thrust into the public spotlight from her earliest days. Raised in Little Rock, Chelsea was a precocious student, skipping third grade due to her advanced intellectual abilities. But her life dramatically shifted when her father won the presidency in 1992, and at just 12 years old, Chelsea found herself navigating the unique and often intense environment of the White House. Indeed, public media appearances of Chelsea as a presidential teenager embossed her in the public's mind for all time. Yet with all of the attention thrust upon her, Chelsea managed to thrive academically, eventually moving to Stanford University in 1997. After obtaining her bachelor's degree in history from Stanford in 2001, Chelsea followed in her father's academic footsteps to the University of Oxford in England, earning a master's degree. Soon, Chelsea's professional life evolved across various sectors, including consulting and finance, and her marriage to family friend Mark Mezvinsky in July 2010 captured public and media attention. In 2014, Chelsea's personal and professional life marked a notable year, welcoming her first child, Charlotte Clinton Mezvinsky, thus expanding the Clinton family, and at the same stepping into a more visible role within the Clinton Foundation. Furthermore, her involvement became particularly prominent during her mother's 2016 presidential campaign, where Chelsea actively participated, connecting with voters and articulating Hillary's policies, particularly on college campuses. Chelsea's poignant speech at the 2016 Democratic National Convention, where she proudly introduced her mother, offered a deeply personal glimpse into her upbringing. Outside the campaign trail, Chelsea continued her work with the Clinton Foundation and authored several influential books, including the She Persisted series, celebrating key women in history. And naturally, as Chelsea Clinton's public engagement intensified, so too did speculation about her potential political ambitions. Her frequent social media interactions and active participation in political dialogues fueled rumors that she might emulate her parents and venture into the electoral arena. And the failure of Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign only amplified discussions about Chelsea's possible political future, with observers keenly watching her every move for hints of an electoral bid. Despite these whispers, Chelsea's representatives steadfastly dismissed the notion of her immediate candidacy. Looking forward, the enduring impact of the Clinton family in American politics seems assured, albeit in potentially new capacities. Chelsea's future, whether in philanthropy or politics, remains a tantalizing question. However, the evolving political landscape, characterized by a growing weariness of political dynasties and a hunger for fresh leadership, poses challenges. As the Clintons continue to engage in philanthropy and public discourse, their presence remains significant in American public life. However, the association with past controversies and the evolving public sentiment against establishment politicians could lead to an enduring stain on the Clinton name that could not only challenge their current influence, but could also limit their future prospects in any political or public endeavor. In the fast-paced and high-stakes arena of real estate and global politics, one name frequently captures the spotlight with its heady mix of power plays, wealth displays, and controversial public intrigue: Trump. Indeed, this family, led by former President Donald Trump, has become a cornerstone of American luxury and contentious political engagement. Yet, a recurring curiosity among observers is whether the Trumps hail from an old money background, steeped in generations of affluence and influence, or if they represent the model of new money, with a penchant for reshaping norms and charting an unconventional path to prominence. In this episode, we will do a deep dive into their complete history, tracing the roots of the Trump surname, exposing the dynamic and contentious histories of Donald's forebears, and evaluate the strategic choices of each generation of the family as we describe. Is the Trump family new money or old money? To determine whether the modern Trump family fits the old money mold, in other words, wealth inherited over generations, or represents new money, aka recently acquired riches and its distinctive traits, we must start by examining the origins of their fortune. Thus, naturally, our journey into the history of the Trumps will begin with their earliest ancestors. Donald J. Trump's family tree reaches back to both Germany and Scotland, with key insights emerging from the paternal side. And the earliest known ancestor, Johannes Peter Christ, was born in Floersheim, Hesse, Germany, in 1626 and lived until 1689. Now, while the name Christ might seem a curious contrast to Trump, especially given Donald Trump's dramatic public persona, it is a relatively common surname in Germany. Notable figures with this name include Norman Christ, a physicist with a focus on computational theoretical physics, and Lena Christ, a German author known for her literary works. This particular Johannes Christ held the position of Schöffer, a lay judge with significant local influence, a role that implies he commanded respect and wielded some authority within his community, indicating a degree of status. Now, during Johannes's lifetime, Hesse was part of the Holy Roman Empire, an era marked by an agrarian economy and a feudal system. The region was also in the throes of major social and political upheavals, particularly related to religious matters, such as the Protestant Reformation, which began in the 16th century under Landgrave Philip the Magnanimous, and continued to influence the region's cultural and religious landscape throughout Johannes's life. Johannes Christ had 2 marriages and fathered 11 children, a notable number for the period. Indeed, in an agrarian society, such a large family would have been beneficial, providing labour for farm work, and Johannes's death at 62, considered a respectable age for his time, suggests he lived a relatively full life. This connection to a respected figure in the Holy Roman Empire gives the Trump family their first old money point, putting the score at 1-0, 1 point for old money, with new money still unaccounted for. Next, the Christ lineage eventually leads us to Philip Christ, father of Elizabeth Christ Trump. Philip was a tinker, repairing and polishing old tools and selling pots and pans, a common occupation in rural areas. He also owned a small vineyard, but the vineyard's income alone could not support his family. Now, Philip Christ's modest means are evident from his need to juggle multiple small-scale ventures. And this economic reality provides insight into the family's monetary standing in the 19th century and paints a picture of financial modesty. But Elizabeth Christ's marriage to Friedrich Trump in 1902 marked a dramatic shift in the family's economic status. Born in 1880, Elizabeth grew up in a modest household and likely contributed to the family's domestic and agricultural tasks, and her marriage to Friedrich Trump, who had already amassed significant wealth in America, represented a profound change from her previous economic conditions. Now, Friedrich Trump, originally Friedrich Drumpf from Karlstadt, born in 1869, had made substantial financial gains in the United States. Certainly, he transformed his fortunes from his roots in economically struggling Palatinate, and this change from Elizabeth's early years to her later life introduces a new money point into the mix. That leaves our score at 1-1, with 1 point for old money through the Christ lineage and 1 point for new money for the enterprising Friedrich Trump. Now, the name Drumpf from the Palatinate region provides a glimpse into the past and the evolution of names within German communities. In this case, Drumpf serves as a historical precursor to the now familiar Trump, and such name changes are not uncommon. Other Germans have similarly anglicized their names over time. A notable example is Jürgen Trumpf, a distinguished German diplomat who served as Secretary General of the Council of the European Union, illustrating a connection to the original name variant. Additionally, the shift from Drumpf to Trump was part of a broader trend among immigrants in America who sought to simplify their names for easier assimilation. Now, the Palatinate region, Friedrich Trump's original home, faced significant economic hardship during his time. Once known for its winemaking traditions dating back to Roman times, the area had deteriorated into poverty by the late 19th century, and the region's economy, reliant on viticulture, struggled due to market fluctuations, political instability, and agricultural challenges. The additional impact of the Napoleonic Wars and the subsequent realignment of German states had worsened the situation. Thus, Friedrich Trump arrived in New York as a young immigrant and initially worked as a barber, a trade he had learned in Germany, and his entrepreneurial spirit soon drove him westward. By the 1890s, he was running a restaurant in Seattle's notorious red light district. The Poodle Dog, as it was called, offered more than just meals. Its private rooms for ladies served as a cover for prostitution. But Friedrich's fortunes took a dramatic turn with the Klondike Gold Rush of 1896. Seizing the opportunity, he sold his Seattle business and moved north to the Yukon Territory, where his sharp business acumen became evident as he established a series of restaurants and hotels to cater to the influx of gold seekers. For example, the Arctic Restaurant and Hotel, his flagship venture, initially operated in Bennett, British Columbia, and later in Whitehorse, Yukon. But these ventures were not merely about providing sustenance and shelter. Reports from the era suggest that Trump's establishments also functioned as brothels, offering sporting ladies to minors. But Donald Trump has contested these descriptions of his grandfather's operations. Whatever the case was, Friedrich Trump's Yukon enterprises proved immensely profitable. Therefore, rather than striking gold himself, Trump built his wealth by catering to those searching for fortunes in the harsh Yukon environment. His business model, serving miners rather than competing with them, allowed him to accumulate considerable wealth in a short time. In 1901, Friedrich returned to Karlstadt, Germany, as a wealthy man, and his return marked a significant shift from his humble beginnings as a barber's apprentice. During this visit, he married one Elizabeth Christ, the aforementioned daughter of a former neighbour. Despite her last name's notoriety that we mentioned in the beginning of this video, Elizabeth's background was modest. This marriage thus represented a substantial economic and social advancement for Elizabeth, given the economic difficulties in the Palatinate. However, the Trump family's attempt to settle back in Germany was cut short, and in 1905, Bavarian authorities ordered Friedrich to leave due to his failure to complete mandatory military service and improper registration when he first emigrated. And despite Friedrich's heartfelt appeal to Prince Regent Luitpold, the order remained in effect. Forced to leave Germany, Friedrich and Elizabeth returned to the United States in July 1905, with Elizabeth pregnant with their son Fred, who would later become Donald Trump's father. Tragically, Friedrich's life was cut short by the 1918 influenza pandemic, passing away on the 30th of May 1918 at just 49 years old, leaving behind Elizabeth and their 3 children, Elizabeth, Fred, Donald's father, and John. The pandemic, which claimed millions globally, claimed another victim. A quite sad and ironic piece of history, given Donald Trump's presiding over the United States during another notable pandemic roughly 100 years later. After Friedrich's death, Elizabeth, then 37, took over the family's real estate ventures. And despite the challenges of managing a business as a widow in a male-dominated field, she demonstrated remarkable business acumen. Elizabeth continued and expanded the real estate operations her husband had started, constructing houses on his properties and securing income through mortgages. Then, in 1923, Elizabeth teamed up with her son Fred to co-found E. Trump and Son, laying the foundation for what would eventually become the Trump Organization. Fred, a recent high school graduate, quickly earned a reputation as a sharp businessman, and he expanded the family business, constructing thousands of homes and apartments throughout New York City. His innovative approach to home building earned him the nickname the Henry Ford of the home building industry, setting the stage for Donald Trump's own rise in Manhattan real estate during the 1970s. Now, Donald Trump's maternal ancestors originated from the Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides, a region marked by significant economic and social hardships in the 19th century. But the Outer Hebrides, including Lewis, were among Europe's poorest areas, ravaged by the highland clearances that uprooted many communities and the collapse of the kelp industry, a vital source of income. Over the century, the Western Isles population plummeted by 40%, from roughly 46,000 to 28,000, driven by emigration and persistent economic strife. And the grandfather of Mary Ann MacLeod, Donald Trump's mother, was named Malcolm MacLeod and born in 1866 in Tong, near Stornoway. Now, Malcolm was the son of Alexander MacLeod, a crofter and fisherman, and grandson of William MacLeod. And this lineage reveals a tradition of subsistence, living in the harsh environment of the Outer Hebrides, where fishing and small-scale farming were lifelines. And while the MacLeod name had clout elsewhere in Scotland, the local branch on Lewis held little status. Furthermore, although the clan system had largely waned by the 19th century, Lewis's MacLeods were not linked to the more prominent clan factions of Skye and Harris. Therefore, we shall award another new money point to the Trumps, as much of Donald Trump's maternal lineage seems to come from essentially working-class or rural Scotland. That leaves our score at 2-1, with new money in the lead. Now, this Malcolm MacLeod, a crofter and fisherman by trade, led a life typical of the region's working class. Crofting and fishing in the Outer Hebrides were precarious, with communities frequently grappling with economic and environmental challenges that left them on the margins. Malcolm wed one Mary Ann Smith MacLeod in 1886, and they raised 10 children, with Mary Ann, Donald's mother, being the youngest. And the family's modest lifestyle was deeply entrenched in the Gaelic-speaking community of the Western Isles. For instance, Gaelic was the primary language at home, with English acquired through formal education. Next, Mary Ann MacLeod, born on the 10th of May 1912 in Tong, sought better prospects at 18. And in 1930, she boarded the SS Transylvania in Glasgow, embarking on a journey that would reshape her destiny. Upon her arrival in New York, Mary Ann began her American life working as a domestic servant, a common role for young immigrant women of the era. Her duties included a notable stint as a maid for Louise Carnegie, widow of the industrialist Andrew Carnegie, at the Carnegie Mansion on the Upper East Side. Then, during the Great Depression, Mary Ann's employment situation became unstable. She briefly returned to Scotland in 1934, but was back in New York by April 1935. And it was during this time, while staying with her sister in Queens, that Mary Ann's fortunes took a significant turn. At a social event in mid-1930s New York, Mary Ann met Fred Trump, an emerging real estate developer. Fred, already making a name for himself in property development, represented a striking contrast to Mary Ann's working-class origins. Their relationship quickly blossomed, culminating in their marriage on the 11th of January 1936 at Madison Avenue Presbyterian Church. And the wedding reception, held at the upscale Carlisle Hotel, underscored their aspirations and the early stages of their social ascent. Initially, the newlyweds lived with Fred's mother in Jamaica, Queens, a middle-class area at the time. But by 1940, the Trumps had established their own home in Jamaica, Queens, where they lived with their two young children, Mary Ann and Fred Jr., and a Scottish domestic worker. Notably, the valuation of their home at $12,500 in 1940, roughly $214,000 today, marked a considerable leap in their financial status from Mary Ann's days as a domestic worker. While Fred Trump's real estate ventures were flourishing, the Trumps' social ascent was more gradual. They were making strides in Queens rather than the more exclusive Manhattan circles. Fred's business thrived with the onset of World War II, which spurred growth in wartime housing projects. But Fred's real estate business boomed during this period, and by 1941, he was constructing housing for U.S. Navy personnel near shipyards in Norfolk, Newport News, Virginia, and Chester, Pennsylvania. By 1944, he had developed 1,360 wartime apartments in Norfolk, contributing nearly 10% of the area's wartime housing. Thus, for the aspirational wedding, consistent upgrades in quality of life, and savvy social mobility the parents of Donald Trump experienced even before his birth, we shall award yet another new money point, leaving the score at 3-1 in favor of the statement, "The Trumps are new money." And as Fred's business grew, Mary Ann adapted to her new role as the wife of a successful businessman. Having arrived from Scotland and started as a domestic servant, she now enjoyed a comfortable upper-middle-class life. Then she became a naturalized U.S. citizen on the 10th of March 1942, firmly rooting herself in her adopted country. Next, the Trumps family expanded with the birth of their third child, Elizabeth, in 1942. Mary Ann primarily managed the household and raised the children, but occasionally assisted Fred's business by collecting coins from laundry machines in their apartment buildings. Now, Fred's parenting style was strict, characterized by rigid curfews and a no-nonsense approach to discipline, which influenced Donald Trump's upbringing. The wartime years, while presenting challenges, also offered Fred opportunities for expansion, and his post-war projects, including the Shore Haven development in Bensonhurst, positioned his business for substantial growth in the years to follow. By 1940, the Trumps' improved financial situation allowed them to move into their own home, and their employ of a Scottish domestic servant signaled their rising status and a reversal of Mary Ann's earlier position. As Fred's real estate empire expanded, the Trumps increasingly engaged in New York's social scene, hosting events and joining exclusive clubs. Mary Ann, once a domestic servant, was now entertaining business associates and local dignitaries, marking a significant transformation from her early days in America. Now, by the time Donald Trump reached his teenage years, the Trump family had firmly planted themselves in the upper middle class, reveling in a comfortable lifestyle that set them apart from many of their contemporaries. Fred Trump's success in real estate development enabled his family to enjoy a life of privilege, far removed from the financial struggles faced by most. Specifically, the Trumps resided in Jamaica Estates, Queens, at the time a serene, upscale neighborhood characterized by its elegant homes and quiet streets, and their residence, a sprawling 23-room colonial, symbolized the family's ascent in social and economic circles. And Fred Trump's knack for real estate and relentless drive were instrumental in elevating the family's socio-economic status. His vast real estate empire, focused on middle-class housing across Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, provided the Trumps with the financial means to send their children to prestigious private schools. Donald Trump, for instance, was enrolled at the Q Forest School in Forest Hills before being transferred to the New York Military Academy at age 13. Interestingly, this move was prompted by Donald's boisterous and assertive nature. His parents hoped the regimented environment of the military academy would help channel his energy more constructively. Furthermore, the Trumps mingled with other prosperous business families in Queens and Brooklyn. They associated with figures entrenched in real estate and construction, including the Tomasello family, who had connections with the Gambino and Genovese crime families. These affiliations were crucial for securing lucrative contracts and navigating the real estate market, particularly during a time when organized crime held considerable sway over construction unions and material suppliers. And his relationship with lawyer Roy Cohn, who had ties to several mafia leaders, further highlighted the intersections between business and organized crime in the city's real estate sector. Now, although the Trumps enjoyed substantial wealth, they kept a relatively low profile in Manhattan's high society. You see, while they were respected locally, they were not part of the old money circles that dominated Manhattan's social scene. This is partly because Fred Trump concentrated his real estate ventures in the outer boroughs rather than the competitive Manhattan market, which influenced the family's social standing. In other words, while they were prominent within their local community, they didn't penetrate the elite circles of New York City. It is here that we should add yet another new money point to the Trumps for their means of social mobility, concentrated on the outer boroughs, reportedly consorting with crime figures and avoiding the need to play politics on the island of Manhattan, all point to an entrepreneurial, did-it-my-way attitude. That leaves our score at 4-1 for new money, but let's see if some other info can help even things up. Additionally, Fred Trump's career was marred by allegations of discriminatory rental practices and legal troubles involving profiteering and tax evasion. Therefore, Donald Trump and his siblings inherited this complex legacy, and growing up in Jamaica estates, they experienced both the benefits of affluence and the gritty realities of the real estate business. Now, Mary Ann Trump Barry, the eldest sibling, forged a distinguished path in law and public service. Born on the 5th of April 1937 in Queens, she attended Q Forest School before pursuing higher education. She next graduated cum laude from Mount Holyoke College in 1958, earned a master's degree in public law and government from Columbia University in 1962, and later received her Juris Doctor from Hofstra University School of Law in 1974. Her legal career began as an assistant U.S. attorney in New Jersey, where she earned a reputation as a formidable prosecutor, particularly in substance-related cases. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan appointed her to the United States District Court for New Jersey, and she served until 1999, when President Bill Clinton elevated her to the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Additionally, throughout her judicial career, Mary Ann was known for her sharp intellect and pragmatic approach. She earned respect for handling complex cases and navigating politically sensitive issues. In 2004, she was honored with an award from Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor for her excellence in law and public service. Mary Ann's relationship with her brother Donald was complicated, and while she supported his early business ventures and political ambitions, she was also known to privately critique his behavior and policies. This tension became public in 2020 when her niece, Mary L. Trump, released recordings of Mary Ann's critical comments about Donald's presidency. In February 2019, Mary Ann retired from the federal bench amid an investigation into her involvement in the Trump family's tax practices, effectively ending the Judicial Conduct Inquiry. She passed away on the 13th of November 2023 at 86 in her Manhattan residence. Next, Fred Trump Jr., born the 14th of October 1938, was the eldest son of Fred Trump Sr. and Mary Ann McLeod Trump. Like his sister Mary Ann, he attended Q Forest School in Queens and graduated from Lehigh University in 1960 with a degree in business, serving as president of the Sigma Alpha Mu fraternity. But Fred Jr. chose a path distinct from the family real estate business, pursuing a career in aviation with TWA. And this choice created friction within the family, particularly with his father and younger brother Donald, who viewed his career decision as a departure from expectations. Now, Fred Jr.'s life was marred by alcoholism, which severely impacted both his professional and personal life. You see, unable to continue his career as a pilot, he worked sporadically for Trump management, performing maintenance tasks on family properties. His personal struggles led to a separation from his wife Linda Clapp and contributed to his premature death on the 26th of September, 1981, at 42. Fred Jr.'s battle with alcoholism and its impact on his life were deeply felt by his family, particularly Donald, who has cited this experience as the reason for his own abstinence from alcohol. Therefore, we'll give one new money point for the tumultuous interpersonal dynamics of Trump's siblings, but one old money point for the illustrious and otherwise unblemished legal career of the late Marianne Trump. That leaves our current score at 5-2, with new money still in the lead. Next, Elizabeth Trump Grau, the middle sibling, took a lower profile route compared to her siblings. She attended Kew Forest School before studying at Southern Seminary College, now Southern Virginia University, and Elizabeth pursued a career in banking, working as an executive assistant at Chase Manhattan Bank, and achieved financial success independent of the family's real estate interests. In 1989, Elizabeth married film producer James Walter Grau, with the wedding receiving coverage from the New York Times, highlighting the family's social prominence. Though she generally avoided the limelight associated with the Trump name, she accumulated significant wealth through her banking career and real estate investments. For example, Elizabeth purchased a mansion in the Hamptons in 1996 for $1.2 million, selling it in 2017 for $3.7 million, an excellent return on investment if we do say so ourselves. Additionally, Elizabeth's participation in family affairs included a notable philanthropic gesture in 2011 when she and her siblings donated $1 million to the Hospital for Special Surgery in honor of their parents. Therefore, the dynamic and polymathic life of Elizabeth Trump, along with her notable wedding and Hamptons high life, should award the Trump family an extra one old money point for behavior, leaving our score at 5-3 in favor of the statement, "The Trumps are new money." Lastly, Robert Trump, the youngest sibling, was born in August 1948, and like Elizabeth, he attended Kew Forest School and graduated from Boston University with a degree in economics. He initially worked on Wall Street before joining the family business as an executive vice president at the Trump Organization, managing real estate holdings outside Manhattan. Robert also served on the board of directors for ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda Softworks, from 1999 until his death in 2020. His personal life included 2 marriages, with his second marriage to Anne Marie Palin occurring shortly before his death. And Robert was known for his staunch support of his brother Donald's political career before passing away on the 15th of August 2020 at 71. With that said, as we move into the life and behavior of Donald Trump himself, the new money side is ahead with a fairly comfortable lead at 5-2. We'll have to see what the next chapter brings in order to determine the final tally. Donald Trump's business journey began in the early 1970s when he joined his father's real estate firm, Elizabeth Trump and Son, and at that time, the company was focused on developing affordable housing in the outer boroughs of New York City. Trump's debut into real estate development came with the renovation of the Swifton Village apartment complex in Cincinnati, Ohio, a project he undertook with his father's financial backing. Completed in 1972, this marked Trump's first significant step into the world of real estate. With this initial success under his belt, Trump turned his attention to Manhattan, setting the stage for his future career. And in 1976, he acquired the Commodore Hotel near Grand Central Terminal, which he transformed into the Grand Hyatt in 1980. This project established Trump as a daring and ambitious developer, willing to invest in properties that others saw as too risky. Now, throughout the 1980s, Trump's real estate empire expanded significantly with high-profile projects such as Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, which opened in 1983. The 58-story skyscraper not only served as his personal residence, but also became the headquarters of the Trump Organization. And this era also saw Trump exploring other ventures, including casinos in Atlantic City and purchasing the New Jersey Generals football team. Additionally, Trump's quest for acceptance among the elite led him to join exclusive clubs and build connections with prominent figures. Despite his efforts, he frequently clashed with established power structures. Therefore, in the mid-1980s, Trump set his sights on Palm Beach, Florida, a symbol of old money and exclusivity. As a brash developer from Queens, Trump was initially an outsider to the town's elite social circles. However, his purchase of Mar-a-Lago in 1985 for $10 million became a turning point in both his career and Palm Beach's history. You see, Mar-a-Lago, originally built by serial heiress Marjorie Merriweather Post, had deteriorated before Trump acquired it. Initially intended as a private residence, Trump faced challenges with the Palm Beach Town Council over plans to subdivide the property. After a contentious legal battle, including a $50 million lawsuit against the town, Trump altered his approach and transformed Mar-a-Lago into a private club in 1995. Naturally, this move was a dramatic departure from Palm Beach's old money social norms, and Trump's later decision to open Mar-a-Lago's membership to Jews and African Americans stood in stark contrast to many of Palm Beach's exclusive clubs, which maintained discriminatory practices. Specifically, Trump's attorney, Paul Rampell, had convinced him of the business opportunity in catering to wealthy Jewish residents who lacked an exclusive club. Furthermore, Trump's inclusive policy at Mar-a-Lago stirred controversy. He faced resistance from some Palm Beach residents and had to navigate complex local regulations. Then, in 1996, he filed another, separate from the aforementioned, $100 million lawsuit against Palm Beach, claiming that the town was discriminating against Mar-a-Lago, partly due to its open membership policy. While the lawsuit focused on zoning issues, it highlighted the tensions surrounding Trump's challenge to the status quo. Despite the initial resistance, Trump's actions at Mar-a-Lago began to dismantle long-standing barriers in Palm Beach society, and the club became a pioneer in accepting African Americans and openly gay couples, marking a notable shift in the local social scene. Although driven primarily by business interests rather than social activism, Trump's approach contributed to altering the exclusivity of the Palm Beach community. Therefore, we shall award another new money point for Donald J. Trump's many battles with the decidedly old money traditional community of Florida, from his battle to rebuild the iconic post structure to his opening up of Mar-a-Lago to different social groups. That leaves our current score at 6-2 in favor of the Trumps are new money. Indeed, Trump's transformation of Mar-a-Lago into a thriving and inclusive private club demonstrated that an open membership policy could be both profitable and influential. And this approach challenged the exclusionary practices of other clubs and gradually reshaped the social landscape in Palm Beach. Soon, the club's growing popularity attracted socialites, business leaders, and became a venue for high-profile charity events, which is, prior to Trump's presidency, what it was probably best known for. Naturally, as Trump's political career ascended, Mar-a-Lago's prominence soared, and during his tenure, Trump referred to it as the Winter White House, hosting international dignitaries and using it for official functions. This elevated the club's status and further spotlighted Palm Beach. But the 1980s also saw the emergence of Trump's distinctive gauche gold taste. For example, the opulent design of Trump Tower, with its reflective glass facade and gold-accented interiors, set a precedent for Trump's future style. This penchant for gold-plated extravagance became a hallmark of his brand, extending to other properties and even his aircraft. And Trump's affinity for gold traces back to his desire to project wealth and success. You see, gold, historically linked to royalty and grandeur, became a symbol of Trump's aspirational lifestyle and business savvy. And this gold-centric aesthetic reached its peak with projects like the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Las Vegas, featuring gold-tinted windows, and his personal penthouse in Trump Tower, adorned with gold leaf and lavish decor. And though some critics viewed this style as excessive, it became a defining feature of Trump's brand. Yet, we would be remiss to not award a new money point for this gold on everything we can find kind of aesthetic, which even non-old money people might see as tacky. That leaves our score at a whopping 7-2 in favor of the Trump's a new money statement. Furthermore, Trump's 3 marriages offer a window into the diverse backgrounds of the women who shared his life, and each brought unique experiences and perspectives to their relationship with the real estate mogul-turned-president. First, Ivana Trump, born Ivana Zelničková in 1949 in communist Czechoslovakia, came from a modest background. Her father was an electrical engineer and her mother a telephone operator, and Ivana's competitive spirit, honed through skiing, led her to Canada after her marriage to Austrian ski instructor Alfred Winkelmeyer in 1971. Her modeling career and subsequent marriage to Donald Trump in 1977 thrust her into New York's elite, where she became a key player in Trump's business ventures, including the Plaza Hotel. Next, Marla Maples, born in 1963 in Dalton, Georgia, came from a small-town background, and her father, Stan Maples, had a varied career including real estate and county commissioner, while her mother's modeling career influenced Marla's own aspirations. Marla's move to New York in her 20s was driven by dreams of fame. Her relationship with Trump, which began during his marriage to Ivana, led to their marriage in 1993. This transition from her modest southern roots to Trump's world of wealth was challenging, as Marla struggled to find her place among the elite. Lastly, Melania Trump, née Melania Knavs, was born in 1970 in Sevnica, Slovenia. Her upbringing in a communist system was marked by her father's car dealership and her mother's textile work, and Melania's early modeling career in Milan and Paris eventually brought her to New York in 1996, where she met Donald Trump in 1998. Their marriage in 2005 elevated her to New York's high society, culminating in her role as First Lady of the United States in 2017, a position that required navigating the complexities of international politics and diplomacy. Therefore, considering the consistent habit of marrying women who weren't already attached to prominent families, a decidedly old money trait known as strategic intermarriage, we shall award the Trump family with another new money point, leaving the score at 8-2, going into the final stretch. Now, Donald J. Trump has 5 children from 3 marriages, each carving out their own distinct paths and public personas. Donald Trump Jr., born in 1977 from Trump's first marriage to Ivana Trump, is the eldest of the Trump children, and he is currently the Executive Vice President of Development and Acquisitions at the Trump Organization. Known for his directness and political engagement, Donald Jr. has been a prominent supporter of his father's political ambitions, actively campaigning and making numerous rally appearances. His outspoken nature and social media activity have drawn significant attention, often sparking controversy. And he has authored 2 books, Triggered and Liberal Privilege, which further establish his stance as a vocal conservative figure. Next, Ivanka Trump, born in 1981, is Trump's second child with Ivana. Her career has spanned modeling, business, and politics. Ivanka served as a senior advisor during her father's presidency, focusing on education and economic initiatives. And before her White House role, she was involved in the Trump Organization and operated her own fashion line. Known for her polished public image, Ivanka is often seen as one of the more moderate voices within Trump's circle, although her consistent connection with her father, as opposed to distancing herself from him, leads many to consider her and her husband Jared Kushner to be some of the main Trump family insiders. Eric Trump, born in 1984, is the youngest child from Trump's marriage to Ivana, and like his siblings, he holds an executive role in the Trump Organization and manages Trump Winery. He frequently defends his father's policies and appears in media to support the Trump administration. Next, Tiffany Trump, born in 1993, is Trump's only child with his second wife, Marla Maples. Raised primarily in California by her mother, Tiffany pursued her education at Georgetown University Law Center, graduating in 2020. And though she has been less involved in the family business, Tiffany has participated in significant political events, including speaking at Republican national conventions. She is also known for her social media presence and has explored music and modeling. Lastly, Barron Trump, born in 2006, is the youngest of Trump's children and his only child with current wife Melania Trump. Due to his age, Barron has remained relatively private until recently, where he has gone viral numerous times during the 2024 election cycle for his height, youthful good looks, and impression that he is the heir apparent to his father's charismatic personality. Despite this fact, little is known about whether his behavior is similarly dominant and hard-nosed like his father. That remains to be seen. He attended St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland during his father's presidency and later moved to Oxbridge Academy in Florida. Recently, Barron made headlines as a Florida delegate to the Republican National Convention, marking his initial foray into the political sphere. And therefore, we shall end with a last new money point for the Trump children as a group. For most of them, to varying degrees, have been public figures aligned with the Trump brand, as it were, rather than in the shadows, as many old money heirs would be in order to preserve the family wealth for generations. That leaves the final tally at 9-2, with a resounding score in favor of the claim that the Trumps are new money. In the heart of a chilly Illinois dawn, Barack Obama began his journey. Chicago lay behind him, its skyline a glittering promise on the horizon, while Springfield awaited his arrival with its own demands and dreams. Indeed, the 200-mile drive, stretching over 3.5 monotonous hours, lay before him like a metaphor for his life. Long, challenging, but filled with purpose. But the road to Springfield was more than asphalt and distance. As the miles rolled by, Barack found solace in the hum of the engine and the rhythmic passing of the highway markers, envisioning family life back in Chicago, where Michelle held down the fort. She was his rock, managing their home with the same precision and care she brought to her roles in the community and at the University of Chicago Medical Center, and their daughters, Malia and Sasha, were the heartbeats that kept them grounded. And yet, how did this humble beginning lead to the rise of an African-American dynasty of unparalleled influence? In today's episode, we'll take you on a journey that spans the entire globe, from the sunny shores of Hawaii to the temperate sands of Africa, all the way to the south side of Chicago, as we describe the Obamas, the most powerful black family in the world. In 2024, the Obamas are living proof that being the former first family comes with perks galore, and then some. And with a jaw-dropping $70 million net worth, Barack and Michelle Obama have transformed their post-presidency years into a dazzling display of financial prowess. Indeed, they've not just sat back and basked in past glory. They've leaped into the realms of book deals, high-profile speeches, media ventures, and real estate, ensuring their legacy is far from a mere historical footnote. For example, Barack's memoirs are not just bestsellers, they're publishing juggernauts, and his opus, A Promised Land, commanded a colossal $65 million deal, while Michelle's Becoming has shifted over 15 million copies. And their Netflix production company, Higher Ground Productions, hasn't just enhanced their brand, it snagged an Oscar for American Factory. Furthermore, their speaking fees have mushroomed to an impressive $400,000 a pop. Add Barack's annual presidential pension of over $200,000, covering health insurance and Secret Service, and their financial portfolio would make even Wall Street do a double take. And it should go without saying that their residences are the epitome of opulence. For instance, the Obamas' primary home in Washington, D.C.'s ritzy Kalorama neighborhood is an $8.1 million masterpiece from the 1920s, featuring 9 bedrooms, 8.5 bathrooms, and lush gardens. Undoubtedly, it strikes the perfect balance between seclusion and access to the political heart of the U.S. Their Martha's Vineyard estate is no less extravagant. Clocking in at $11.75 million, this 29-acre haven boasts a nearly 7,000-square-foot main house with 7 bedrooms, 8.5 bathrooms, and an array of stone fireplaces. With sweeping Atlantic views, a swimming pool, a 2-car garage, a separate barn, and a boathouse, it's a luxurious retreat from the frenetic pace of public life. And in Hyde Park, Chicago, their former home stands as a sentimental cornerstone. This is where the Obama journey began, and their ties to the city remain strong through community initiatives and the Obama Presidential Center, a project aimed at inspiring future leaders. Yet, even in their well-heeled bubble, the Obamas are never out of reach of the U.S. Secret Service. The agency's protective measures are legendary, at least for certain political candidates. When working for the Obamas, they use secure perimeters, coordinate with local law enforcement, and use cutting-edge surveillance systems and neutralize threats before they can even get close. Their code names, Barack is Renegade and Michelle is Renaissance, add a dash of glamour to their already glittering lifestyle, proving their security is as sophisticated as their celebrity. Additionally, with even years away from the White House, the Obamas are still heavyweight contenders in global politics and media. Former President Barack Obama remains a towering presence in political discourse, and his approval ratings, according to Pew Research Center, are still sky high, with a majority of Americans holding him in high regard, consistently eclipsing those of many current political figures, including President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and former President Donald Trump. And Michelle Obama's popularity is equally formidable. A recent Ipsos poll revealed that she enjoys a favorability rating surpassing both Biden and Trump by over 10 percentage points. This widespread admiration underscores the Obamas' lasting impact and charm. In this regard, Barack Obama's impact on the 2024 election is particularly noteworthy. Rumor has it that his influence played a role in President Joe Biden's decision to step aside. And while solid evidence is elusive, many speculate that Obama's sway within the Democratic Party might have influenced Biden's choice. Moreover, there's chatter that Obama had a preference for another candidate, but eventually backed Kamala Harris to unite the party and strengthen the Democratic front for the upcoming election. Thus, this endorsement wasn't merely a gesture, it was a strategic move, underscoring their continued influence and commitment to shaping the political landscape. And yet, you're probably wondering how a quiet, bookish Hawaiian and a star student from the south side of Chicago got together to create the most powerful black family in the world. In order to get the full picture, let's go all the way back to the beginnings of the Obama and Robinson families in the next chapter. The roots of Barack Obama's family stretch back to the 19th century, beginning with his great-great-grandfather, Opio, who was born around 1830 near Lake Victoria in Africa. And Opio's lineage is marked by significant transitions, most notably with his son Onyango, born around 1895, who became the grandfather of none other than Barack Obama Sr. Interestingly, this paternal ancestor of the future commander-in-chief, named Onyango, embraced Islam, adopting the name Hussein Onyango Obama, and pursued a dual role as a mission cook and local herbalist. Soon, his marriage to one Habiba Akumu produced Barack Obama Sr., the father of the future president. Now, the Luo people, to whom Obama's ancestors belonged, are a Nilotic ethnic group native to the regions surrounding western Kenya and northern Tanzania. Their migration from Uganda into Kenya spanned several centuries, a journey intertwined with the migrations of related groups such as the Acholi and Padhola. The Luo practiced a varied subsistence strategy combining cattle herding, farming, fishing and hunting, and spoke Doluo, a language closely related to those of other Luo communities. By the 19th century, the Luo had established themselves in Kenya, gradually developing a distinct cultural and political identity. Their influence grew steadily, and by the 1960s, they had become a formidable presence in the newly independent nation of Kenya. Now, the future president's father, Barack Obama Sr., was born on the 18th of June 1936 in the Rachuonyo district of British Kenya. He grew up in the village of Nyangoma Kogelo within the Siaya district, and at the age of 6, he converted from Islam to Anglicanism while attending a missionary school, changing his name from Baraka to Barack. His parents' separation when he was 9 led to his upbringing under the care of his stepmother, Sarah Ogwell, and then Obama Sr.'s educational journey took him through various institutions, including the prestigious Anglican boarding school, Maseno National School. His academic prowess led him to marry his first wife, Kezia Aoko, in 1954, with whom he had 2 children, whom we'll discuss in depth in a little while as members of the broader Obama clan. Soon, Barry Sr.'s educational achievements in 1959 earned him a place in a special program, which brought him to the United States for studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, thus leading him to cross paths with a white woman named Stanley Ann Dunham, who would later become the mother of Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States. Now, Stanley Ann Dunham was born on the 29th of November 1942 in Wichita, Kansas, as the only child of Stanley Armour Dunham and Madeline Lee Payne Dunham. And her father's decision to name her Stanley, despite her being a girl, was a source of mild confusion and teasing during her youth. And though Dunham's family heritage was a mix of English with other notable Germanic elements, her lineage included John Punch, an African-American man condemned to slavery in 1640, interestingly making her a direct descendant of one of America's earliest documented slaves. But Stanley Ann's parents, Kansas natives, met and married in Wichita in 1940, and after the attack on Pearl Harbor, her father enlisted in the Army, and her mother took up work at a Boeing plant. Post-World War II, the family relocated multiple times across California, Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas before settling in Seattle, Washington in 1955. There, Stanley Ann attended Nathan Eckstein Junior High School and graduated from Mercer Island High School in 1960, before beginning her studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa that same year. It was in this setting that she met Barack Obama Sr. in a Russian language class, of all places, setting in motion the events that would shape the future of the Obama family. Now, Stanley Ann Dunham and Barack Obama Sr.'s marriage encountered significant opposition from both their families, driven by cultural, racial, and personal concerns, and their union, emerging in an era when many states still prohibited interracial marriages, was both bold and contentious. For example, Dunham's parents, Stanley Armour Dunham and Madeline Lee Payne Dunham, were initially unsettled by their daughter's relationship with Obama Sr. Originally from Kansas, the Dunhams had relocated to Hawaii seeking new opportunities, but despite their move, they held traditional views, and the idea of their daughter marrying an African man was disquieting. Their worries were amplified by the fact that Dunham was only 18 and 3 months pregnant when she married Obama Sr., raising doubts about the stability and future of the marriage. But Obama Sr.'s family in Kenya also had their reservations. You see, he had left behind a wife, Kezia Aoko, and their 2 children, and although he informed Dunham that he was divorced, this wasn't true. Specifically, Luo culture required a complex divorce process involving a council of elders and the return of the dowry, which had not been completed. This cultural backdrop led his family to view his marriage with skepticism, worried about his responsibilities in Kenya and the potential neglect of his first family. Furthermore, the cultural divide between the 2 families was profound. Dunham's parents were concerned about the racial prejudices their daughter and grandson would face in a predominantly white society. At the same time, Obama Sr.'s family worried about the cultural dissonance and his obligations in Kenya. Additionally, as their relationship evolved, personal dynamics between Dunham and Obama Sr. shifted. Initially marked by mutual admiration, their marriage soon faced strains, and Obama Sr.'s attitude reportedly became more demanding and less considerate, leading to tensions. For instance, an incident where he threw a meal Dunham had prepared highlighted the growing discord and the physical separation, with Dunham moving to Seattle with their newborn son while Obama Sr. remained in Hawaii, further strained their marriage. Often, as they say, long distance is the wrong distance. It was within this culturally expansive and yet internally divisive context that Barack Hussein Obama II was born on the 4th of August 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii. And shortly after his birth, his father left for Harvard University, with his parents' marriage ending when he was 2 years old. But his mother later married Lolo Suetoro, an Indonesian student, and the family moved to Jakarta when Obama was 6. In Indonesia, Obama attended both Catholic and Muslim schools, experiencing a unique cultural and religious environment, partially due to his mother, a staunch liberal, instilling in him a belief in the value of civil rights and social justice. Yet, despite Jakarta's vibrant life, Obama returned to Honolulu in 1971 to live with his maternal grandparents and attend Punahou School, an elite preparatory academy. Certainly this period was crucial in shaping his identity, as he grappled with understanding what he felt it meant to be a black man in America, a journey he later detailed in Dreams from My Father. At Punahou, Obama was known for his intellect and athleticism, especially in basketball. Yet, he faced racial isolation, being one of the few African-American students, and his mixed heritage and the absence of his father added layers of complexity to his self-identity. Despite these challenges, Obama excelled academically, graduating in 1979. Next, Obama's college years were marked by significant growth. He started at Occidental College in Los Angeles, engaging with political and social issues, and he then transferred to Columbia University in New York City, graduating in 1983 with a degree in political science. After undergrad, Obama worked for a year at Business International Group in New York before seeking more meaningful work by moving to Chicago in 1985 to become a community organizer on the South Side. There, he worked with low-income residents to improve living conditions and set up job training programs, experiences that deepened his understanding of urban African American struggles and solidified his commitment to public service. Then, in 1988, Obama enrolled at Harvard Law School, where he became the first African American president of the Harvard Law Review. And his time at Harvard brought national attention and led to a book contract, resulting in Dreams from My Father. During a summer internship at the Chicago law firm Sidley Austin in 1989, Obama met Michelle Robinson, a fellow Harvard Law graduate. Initially skeptical, Michelle was eventually won over by Barack's persistence, and their first date, a visit to the Art Institute of Chicago and a movie, marked the beginning of a partnership that would become central to both their personal and professional lives. Now, Michelle Obama's own ancestry reveals a complex history. Her maternal great-great-great-grandmother, Melvinia Shields, was enslaved in South Carolina before being moved to northern Georgia. Melvinia had a child, Dolphus Shields, with Charles Marion Shields, the son of her owner. Dolphus Shields later moved to Birmingham, Alabama, where he married Alice Easley and had a son named Robert Lee Shields, and Robert Lee Shields' son, Pernell Shields, eventually relocated to Chicago with his mother, reflecting the Great Migration. This era, spanning from the early 20th century to the 1970s, saw millions of African Americans move from the rural South to urban centers in the North and West in search of better economic opportunities and to escape the conditions of Jim Crow segregation. Thus, Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, known as Michelle Obama, was born on the 17th of January 1964 in Chicago, and she grew up in a tight-knit family on the South Side, with her father working as a pump operator and her mother emphasizing education. Michelle excelled academically, skipping the second grade, attending Whitney M. Young Magnet High School, and later graduating cum laude from Princeton University. She then earned her Juris Doctor degree from Harvard Law School in 1988 before returning to Chicago, where Michelle worked at Sidley Austin and meeting Barack Obama. Therefore, their eventual marriage marked the beginning of a journey that would lead them to the White House, driven by shared values and mutual support. On the 3rd of October 1992, Michelle and Barack Obama exchanged vows at the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, and their early years together were a blend of professional achievement and personal growth. Barack began his legal career as an associate at Davis, Minor, Barnhill and Gallard, where he focused on voting rights cases. Meanwhile, Michelle transitioned from corporate law to non-profit work and academia, eventually becoming the Associate Dean of Student Services at the University of Chicago. Now, in 1996, roughly 4 years into their marriage, Barack entered the political arena as the elected representative of Illinois' 13th District in the state Senate, and his tenure was defined by efforts to reform ethics and healthcare laws, enhance tax credits for low-income families, and expand childcare subsidies. His re-elections in 1998 and 2002 underscored his growing influence in Illinois politics. However, the Obamas faced their own set of trials during these years. Michelle experienced a miscarriage, and the couple, in their desire to expand their family, turned to in vitro fertilization, leading to the births of Malia in 1998 and Sasha in 2001. And despite the pressures of Barack's burgeoning political career, the Obamas worked to maintain a stable home life for their daughters. They kept their residence in Chicago to provide consistency for Malia and Sasha, even as Barack's responsibilities demanded frequent travel. Michelle balanced her career with her role as a mother, often making sacrifices to support Barack's ambitions while ensuring their daughters were well cared for. And Barack's political ascent continued, though not without setbacks. In 2000, his bid for the U.S. House of Representatives against incumbent Bobby Rush ended in defeat. Yet, this did not deter him, and the 2004 Democratic National Convention became a defining moment for Barack. You see, on the 27th of July 2004, in Boston, he delivered a keynote address that captured the nation's attention. His speech, urging national unity and emphasizing common values, marked a departure from the conventional political discourse. And it was here that he famously declared, "There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There's the United States of America." Following the convention, Obama's visibility soared, and his memoir, Dreams from My Father, was reissued and became a bestseller, solidifying his position within the Democratic Party. Subsequently, in November 2004, Obama achieved a resounding victory in the U.S. Senate race against Republican Alan Keyes, capturing 70% of the vote. Sworn into office in January 2005, he quickly made an impact with his work on ethics reform, healthcare, and veterans' benefits, co-sponsoring the Secure America and Orderly Immigration Act, ironically with his future opponent, Senator John McCain. During his Senate years, Obama penned The Audacity of Hope, published in October 2006, and this book, outlining his political vision, garnered widespread acclaim and speculation about his presidential aspirations. Despite growing interest, Obama remained focused on his Senate duties, yet nonetheless, the momentum for a presidential bid was unmistakable. By October, during an interview on Meet the Press, Obama acknowledged serious consideration of a presidential run. Thus, a few short months later, on the 10th of February 2007, Obama officially declared his candidacy for the presidency in Springfield, Illinois, at the old state capitol, the site of Abraham Lincoln's famous House Divided speech. And from the beginning, Obama's campaign was characterized by its focus on hope, change, and unity. His message resonated across a diverse electorate, particularly among young voters and minorities. Furthermore, the innovative use of social media and grassroots organizing was central to his campaign's success, creating an expansive network of supporters and volunteers. But the Democratic primary was fiercely competitive, with Obama facing off against several seasoned politicians, notably Senator Hillary Clinton. And indeed, the contest between Obama and Clinton was one of the most intense primaries in recent history. Yet, Obama's victory in the Iowa caucuses in January 2008 was a crucial early triumph that confirmed his status as a serious contender. The primary season continued to be a hard-fought battle, with Obama and Clinton exchanging victories, but by the 3rd of June, Obama had amassed sufficient delegates to secure the nomination. At the Democratic National Convention in August, he accepted the nomination with a stirring address that energized his supporters. For the general election, Obama selected Senator Joe Biden of Delaware as his running mate, facing the Republican ticket of Senator John McCain and Governor Sarah Palin. And the campaign was marked by aggressive advertising and frequent debates. But a turning point emerged in September 2008 with the onset of the global financial crisis. Obama's calm and measured response contrasted with McCain's more erratic approach, including a temporary suspension of his campaign, and this difference in leadership style was pivotal in solidifying Obama's lead in the polls. Additionally, throughout the campaign, Obama's team excelled in both traditional and new media. Their strategic use of television advertising and social media helped them raise unprecedented amounts of money, allowing them to outspend McCain in crucial battleground states. As Election Day approached, polls consistently favored Obama. Consequently, on the 4th of November 2008, with record voter turnout, Obama won decisively, as he carried key swing states such as Florida, Ohio, and Virginia, as well as traditionally Republican states like Indiana and North Carolina. In total, he secured 365 electoral votes to McCain's 173, winning 53% of the popular vote. That night, in a poignant moment, Obama addressed a crowd of 250,000 people in Grant Park, Chicago, marking both the culmination of his campaign and the start of a new chapter in American history. Without a doubt, Barack Obama's triumph in the 2008 presidential election marked a historic moment in American history. As the first African-American president, Obama's victory was both a political and cultural milestone, and the global reaction to Obama's election was one of immense enthusiasm. Around the world, his victory was hailed as a symbol of democratic potential and a new chapter in American leadership. In Kenya, where Obama's father was from, the day was marked by public celebrations and declared a national holiday. Similar festivities unfolded in Indonesia and Japan as people gathered to watch the inauguration and celebrate its historic significance. And Obama's inauguration on the 20th of January 2009 was a historic event, drawing an unprecedented 1.8 million attendees to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The ceremony's theme, A New Birth of Freedom, paid tribute to Abraham Lincoln and emphasized the ideals of renewal and unity that Obama aimed to represent. Yet, when Barack Obama assumed the presidency on that faithful day, he inherited a nation grappling with the severe repercussions of the Great Recession. In the first 100 days of Barack Obama's presidency, the country's economic turmoil was palpable, and the newly inaugurated president's administration wasted no time in addressing the crisis. Central to their efforts was the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, a sweeping $787 billion stimulus package designed to jolt the economy back to life. But this ambitious plan, alongside the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP for short, initiated under President George W. Bush, became a focal point of contention. You see, Obama, who had previously endorsed TARP as a senator, took a proactive role in securing additional funds, lobbying vigorously to extend the bailout with an extra $350 billion, and this move, intended to stabilize the financial sector, was met with criticism. Detractors argued that the bailout disproportionately favored large financial institutions, leaving average Americans facing foreclosures and unemployment largely unassisted. Meetings between Obama and bank executives, coupled with his administration's reluctance to impose restrictions on executive bonuses at firms like AIG, fueled the perception that his policies prioritized Wall Street over Main Street. Indeed, Obama's administration's strong support for big banks' financial interventions led to accusations of an excessive alignment with Wall Street interests, and continues to be a thorn in the side of the Obama legacy. Now, Michelle Obama, assuming the role of First Lady in 2009, initially approached her new position with caution, concerned about preserving a sense of normalcy for her daughters, Malia and Sasha. However, she soon embraced her role with vigor, launching several impactful initiatives. One of her early endeavors was the creation of a vegetable garden on the south lawn of the White House in April 2009, and this garden laid the groundwork for her Let's Move campaign, which she officially launched in 2010 to address childhood obesity. The initiative emphasized healthy eating and physical activity for children, reflecting Michelle's commitment to public health. Meanwhile, Malia and Sasha, aged 10 and 7 when they moved into the White House, experienced an extraordinary upbringing. The Obama administration made efforts to safeguard their privacy while allowing them a semblance of ordinary childhood experiences, and they attended Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., participating in sports and music, despite the constant presence of Secret Service protection. Heartwarmingly, the president often remarked on how the girls, in their pajamas and seeking bedtime stories, transformed the White House into a true family home. Then, as the economy showed signs of recovery, Obama shifted focus toward healthcare reform, culminating in the passage of the Affordable Care Act, informally known as Obamacare, in March 2010. This landmark legislation aimed to expand healthcare coverage and reduce costs, becoming one of his signature achievements. However, it also attracted considerable opposition. In addition to the Affordable Care Act, Obama pursued a series of domestic policy reforms. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, signed into law in July 2010, represented the most extensive overhaul of financial regulations since the Great Depression, and it sought to prevent another financial crisis by enhancing oversight of financial institutions and establishing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Another notable achievement was the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in December 2010, allowing LGBTQ+ individuals to serve openly in the military. This significant policy shift fulfilled a campaign promise that would later see even more legislative advancement in his second term. Lastly, as his first term neared its end, Obama introduced the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, in June 2012. DACA aimed to defer deportations and provide work authorization to young undocumented immigrants, commonly referred to as Dreamers, who had been brought to the US as children. The program, designed as a temporary measure, allowed nearly 900,000 individuals to obtain legal employment in the US. Specifically, it required that applicants arrived in the US before their 16th birthday, resided continuously in the country since the 15th of June 2007, and met educational or military service requirements. But while many viewed DACA as a compassionate response to a pressing issue, critics argued that Obama had exceeded his executive authority and circumvented the legislative process. And in matters of national security, Obama's presidency saw a marked expansion of surveillance programs, and his stance evolved significantly from his earlier criticisms of the Bush administration's surveillance practices. By 2012, he signed a 5-year extension of the FISA Amendments Act, which he had once opposed. And this shift became more pronounced in June 2013, when Edward Snowden revealed the extent of NSA surveillance under Obama's administration. Snowden's disclosures exposed the collection of telephone records of millions of Americans and the monitoring of major internet company servers. Initially defending these practices as essential for national security and subject to oversight, Obama later acknowledged the need for reforms, proposing changes to the NSA's telephone metadata program in January 2014. Then, Obama's first term also involved a challenging re-election campaign. With the economy recovering only slowly, he faced Mitt Romney, the former governor of Massachusetts, who criticized his economic policies and promised job creation through tax cuts and reduced government spending. Obama's campaign, leveraging advanced digital strategies and social media, maintained a clear edge over Romney's more traditional approach. While Romney briefly gained ground after a strong performance in the first presidential debate, Obama rebounded in subsequent debates and garnered a boost from his response to Superstorm Sandy. Then, on the 2nd of November 2012, Obama secured his second term with a decisive victory. But this election saw record-breaking campaign financing and negative advertising, underscoring the intense nature of the contest. As Obama began his second term on the 20th of January 2013, he faced ongoing challenges. The issues of economic recovery, healthcare reform, and a polarized political landscape loomed large, setting the stage for the next phase of his presidency. Barack Obama's second term as President of the United States from 2013 to 2017 was a period marked by substantial achievements and significant controversies, reflecting a complex phase in American history. You see, at the outset of his second term, Obama concentrated on economic recovery. But the US economy, still grappling with the effects of the Great Recession, began to show signs of improvement. By the second quarter of 2015, the economy had grown by 3.7%, and the unemployment rate had decreased to 5.1%, indicating a strong rebound. And on the international stage, Obama achieved notable diplomatic successes. One of the most prominent was the Iran nuclear deal, a landmark agreement aimed at preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons in exchange for lifting economic sanctions. This deal marked a shift towards diplomacy over military action. Another significant achievement was the restoration of diplomatic relations with Cuba, ending decades of hostility and opening a new chapter in US-Cuba relations. Despite these successes, Obama's second term was fraught with controversy. For example, the administration's expanded use of drone strikes became a major issue. During his presidency, drone strikes increased significantly, with 563 strikes targeting countries such as Pakistan, Somalia, and Yemen. Indeed, this was a sharp rise from the 57 strikes carried out under George W. Bush. Thus, the expansion of drone warfare led to criticism due to high civilian casualties and ethical concerns about the classification of military-age males in strike zones as combatants. The drone program faced intense scrutiny for its high civilian toll and legal and moral implications. The administration's policy of assuming all military-age males in a strike zone were combatants, unless proven otherwise, posthumously drew particular criticism. And this approach was seen as potentially inflating combatant casualties and underreporting civilian deaths. In response to growing criticism, Obama introduced a near certainty standard in 2013, requiring near certainty that no civilians would be harmed before authorizing a strike. This policy shift aimed to address concerns about the ethics and legality of drone strikes. Nonetheless, independent estimates suggested that between 384 and 807 civilians were killed in these strikes during Obama's presidency, while the White House's own figures, released under pressure, estimated between 64 and 116 civilian deaths. Yet, domestically, Obama made significant strides on social issues. His evolving stance on same-sex marriage culminated in the Supreme Court's 2015 decision in Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. This was a major victory for the LGBTQ+ community and a defining achievement of Obama's presidency. And throughout these years, Michelle Obama continued her work as First Lady while focusing on raising their daughters, Malia and Sasha. Michelle remained committed to her initiatives, particularly the Let's Move campaign, which saw significant growth, including a partnership with the US Olympic Committee in 2012 to introduce athletic programming for millions of children. By 2016, nearly 2 million children had participated in these programs. And Malia and Sasha grew up under the public eye during this period, with Malia graduating from high school in 2016 and choosing to take a gap year before starting at Harvard University. During this time, she traveled to Liberia and Morocco to support the Let Girls Learn initiative, focusing on girls' education globally. Sasha continued her high school education, maintaining a relatively private life while excelling in her studies and extracurricular activities. Yet the second term also faced controversies that tested the administration. The 2012 Benghazi attack, which resulted in the deaths of 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens, led to investigations and criticism of the administration's handling of the incident. Additionally, the IRS scandal, which involved targeting conservative groups for extra scrutiny, and the Justice Department's seizure of phone records from the Associated Press, raised concerns about governmental overreach and press freedom. Specifically, Obama's use of executive actions to overcome congressional gridlock drew sharp criticism from opponents who viewed these measures as overreach. As the 2016 presidential election approached, Obama was deeply involved in supporting Hillary Clinton, and his endorsement in June 2016 marked a significant shift from their earlier rivalry, and he campaigned vigorously for her, emphasizing the importance of continuing the progress made during his presidency. However, the campaign was disrupted by the FBI's announcement of a renewed investigation into Clinton's emails shortly before the election, impacting the campaign's momentum. Therefore, on the 8th of November 2016, Donald Trump's unexpected victory was a blow to Obama and his administration, who had hoped to see Clinton continue their legacy. In his final weeks, Obama focused on securing his legacy through executive actions, including banning oil drilling off the Atlantic coast and establishing new environmental protections. His presidency concluded with a farewell address in Chicago, where he urged Americans to remain hopeful and engaged in the democratic process. After leaving office on the 20th of January 2017, the Obamas embarked on a vacation, starting with a stay in the British Virgin Islands with billionaire Richard Branson and then moving to French Polynesia. During this period, Barack Obama began working on his memoir, marking a transition from the intense pressures of the presidency to a more relaxed phase of his life. The Obama family is often viewed through the lens of Barack, Michelle, and their daughters Malia and Sasha. Yet, this immediate family is part of a broader network, each member contributing to a rich, interconnected story. Michelle Obama's family includes her older brother, Craig Robinson, a significant figure in his own right. Born in April 1962 in Calumet Park, Illinois, Craig Robinson emerged as a notable basketball player during his time at Princeton University, and there he achieved distinction as a 2-time Ivy League Player of the Year and ranked as the 4th highest scorer in the school's history. After earning a BA in sociology, Robinson pursued professional basketball briefly in the UK before transitioning to finance, working as a bond trader. He returned to the basketball world later, taking on coaching roles at institutions like Brown University and Oregon State University. At Brown, his tenure was marked by recognition as Ivy League Coach of the Year by Basketball.com. In 2017, Robinson shifted to sports administration, taking up executive roles with the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks. By 2020, he had assumed the position of Executive Director of the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Yet, despite his busy career, Robinson has consistently been a steadfast supporter of his sister Michelle, standing by her throughout her time as First Lady and beyond. Barack Obama's family, on the other hand, is more complex, spanning multiple continents and family branches. But among his maternal half-siblings, Maya Soetoro stands out as a close and supportive figure. Born in 1970 to Barack's mother, Ann Dunham, and her second husband, Lolo Soetoro, Maya grew up with Barack in Hawaii. She pursued a career in education, achieving a PhD in International Comparative Education from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She taught social studies in secondary schools and later joined the faculty at the University of Hawaii, focusing on peace education, multicultural education, and conflict management. Maya has also been a vigorous supporter of Barack's political endeavors, playing a significant role in his presidential campaigns and contributing to the Obama Foundation's leadership programs in the Asia-Pacific region. On Barack's paternal side, his half-siblings have made notable contributions in their respective fields. Dr. Omar Obama, born in 1960, is a distinguished sociologist, journalist, and author, and Mark Obama Ndesanjo, born in 1965, has carved a distinct path in China. A graduate of Brown University, Stanford, and Emory, Ndesanjo is an accomplished musician, author, and businessman. Living in Shenzhen since 2002, he runs an internet company and is involved in various philanthropic activities. Fluent in Mandarin, he embraces Chinese culture, including calligraphy, and his literary works include the novel Nairobi to Shenzhen and an autobiography, An Obama's Journey, which offer insights into his complex family dynamics. However, the most controversial figure among Barack's siblings is his half-brother Malik Obama, a family member who was initially so supportive and close to Barack that he stood best man at his and Michelle's wedding. Yet, Malik's relationship with his brother deteriorated over time. His public criticisms of Barack, accusing him of neglect and describing him as cold and ruthless, have created a significant rift between them. And Malik's support for Donald Trump during the 2016 US presidential election and his vocal disputes with Barack have only intensified the discord. His memoir, Big Bad Brother from Kenya, coupled with issues surrounding the Barack H. Obama, has further fueled the controversy. Furthermore, Malik's presence on Twitter has been particularly notable for its provocative nature. He has frequently employed the platform to voice his dissatisfaction and disparage Barack, and his tweets have been characterized by derogatory language and personal attacks, including referring to Barack as a fake snake and a snob. Despite these ongoing tensions, Barack and Michelle Obama have largely remained focused on their immediate family and their post-presidency endeavors. And Malia and Sasha Obama have pursued their own paths with independence. Malia's interest in filmmaking has led her to internships with the television show Girls and the Weinstein Company, and by 2021, Malia had joined the writing staff of a project at Amazon Studios created by Donald Glover. Her directorial debut at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival with her short film The Heart, which delves into themes of loss and forgiveness, marked a significant milestone in her burgeoning career. And Sasha, having graduated from the University of Southern California in 2023 with a degree in sociology, has focused on her personal well-being and fitness. Therefore, while both Malia and Sasha have been encouraged to steer clear of politics, their journeys reflect a commitment to their personal passions and goals. In navigating their own paths, it's anyone's guess how the next generation of Obamas will leave their mark. But it is unlikely to be in the rough and tumble world of political intrigue like their father.